Well, good Friday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you for the next 3 hours as we get you ready for Royals baseball and their weekend series with the Atlanta Braves. We've got so much to get to over these next 3 hours from all around the world of sports, and we would love for you to be a part of the show today. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429, or jump into the comment section on YouTube. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. That's where you'll find all of our live streams and other video content, and the comment section where you can hop in and be a part of the show. We'll talk some college basketball transfer portal to lead things off here in just a matter of moments. A busy week this week and coming up next week for both KU and for K-State. So we'll get to that here momentarily. Matt Derrick will join us this hour as well for our Chiefs Insider. Since we last spoke with Matt, the Chiefs have added not only Richie James as a wide receiver, but they're bringing back Justin Watson as well. That was news that broke earlier today that Justin Watson is returning for a 2-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs for nothing, for peanuts. Max value of the contract is $6 million. He's like cut proof at that kind of price. So we will talk to Matt about that. We'll talk about Justin Watson as well and what it means for the draft. Because now the Chiefs have MVS and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney and Justin Watson and Richie James. That's 5 NFL rotational receivers that all have played or started in the last couple of years. Then you throw in the guys who are still lingering around who are going to fight for roster spots, the Cornell Powells, John Ross, former first-round pick, Justin Ross, remember the hype about him last training camp, Emir Smith-Marset, who's been working out with Patrick Mahomes. There was a video that went viral this week of Mahomes throwing a dart to Emir Smith-Marset, who was around at the end of last year. So we'll talk about what the future looks like for this wide receiver room with the draft now just 2 weeks away. Also coming up today, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We will preview what is to come this weekend in the Royals and Braves series, and we'll take a look at what else is on tap in the sports weekend. We'll find our weekly champion in What Is Wrong With You. This hour, we'll play Change My Mind. All that coming up between now and 6 o'clock and the start of Royals baseball tonight right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. You can also listen in online at our website, 580WIBW.com, and check us out on YouTube. Again, the name of our channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. Dan, let's jump right in because there is a lot from the transfer portal that we can break down this week and going into the weekend, both with KU and with K-State. And I'm going to lean with KU to start things here because their pursuit of one of the better players in the portal, as well as pretty much undeniably the best player, maybe ever to hit the transfer portal, coming more into focus this week. First player is Harrison Ingram, who was a former 5-star prospect, I believe, McDonald's All-American, or a high 4 at least. Ends up at Stanford, has a really good freshman season, thought about leaving, struggled at the end of the year, though, decides to come back. Was all right his sophomore year. We've talked before about Stanford being bad.
Yeah. Statistically, he was about the same player.
Yeah.
Like almost exactly the same player that he was his freshman season. Maybe felt like he plateaued a little bit. And looks like he needs to stay in school at least a little bit longer to burnish those NBA bona fides. So off he went into the portal. And Kansas was in on him really early as a high school prospect. I think Kansas and Baylor offered Ingram as a sophomore.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah, they were early adopters. They were early on the Harrison Ingram bandwagon. In the end, Ingram went with Stanford. Went out west, and has had 2 years playing for a program that's kind of been irrelevant and maybe hasn't grown, has plateaued, like I said, a little bit as a player. So an opportunity to maybe get to a better program, one maybe a little more well known for player development, and maybe there's another level for Harrison Ingram to get to as a player.
Does a 6'7" small or power forward combo forward who has average athleticism but a high basketball IQ with a desire to be a team player, does that sound like another recent Kansas Jayhawk to you by chance? Possibly one who was a consensus All-American this year? Like that's your direct replacement for Jalen Wilson if Harrison Ingram comes in. So KU, and Michael Swain has talked to us about this during Jayhawk Weekly the last couple of weeks. They had pretty much stopped recruiting him out of the portal for a couple of weeks because there was initial interest that was reported. Then KU pretty much said, now we're good, went in another direction. None of those things materialized. And now they went back to, hey, actually, we would like you to come take a visit. And now the trend, and Michael Swain over at 24/7, he put in a crystal ball pick for it today, is back to it looks like it's going to happen for KU and Harrison Ingram. So that's one fit that I think, I mean, again, it makes sense. That's your direct replacement for your 4 for Jalen Wilson.
And they need wings. We know that.
Yep.
They need wing players. My concern for Harrison Ingram is he's a 31.5% three-point shooter in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that KU doesn't just need wings. They need wings who can shoot. They need floor spreaders. They need impactful three-point shooting. And Ingram, to this point, hasn't been that. Now, that doesn't say he can't get better. Jalen Wilson himself is a guy who got a lot better as a three-point shooter as his career went on, got a lot more reliable at that. But yeah, there are some other similarities between Wilson and Ingram that are pretty enticing.
I think the fascinating part about the transfer portal is, you know, when you recruit someone out of high school, the general expectation is they are going to get better over time, right? Like you take an 18-year-old with raw athleticism and you think, okay, they'll be able to do something for us at first, and then they're going to continue to get better from that point on, at least from high school to freshman, probably to sophomore year, you'll see that jump. You don't know that you're getting that with transfer portal players. You can think it. Like the optimistic view for KU is that Harrison Ingram does take a little bit of a step. Even if he's a 35% three-point shooter, you'll take that.
Yeah, you live with that.
34%. You can live with that. Can he take a little bit of a step forward there? Maybe, he played a little bit lighter as a freshman when he played really well and put on a few pounds last year. Not like in a negative way, just maybe they asked him to bulk up. Maybe you slim down a little bit, add a little bit of a touch to the shot. You might be an NBA player in a year. I mean, that's what you hope for. But the risk you take if you're KU or any other program too is maybe this is what they are. And are we adding him because we want what he is, or because we think he's at, an 8 out of 10 and we can get him to a 9? I think that's the fascinating part about recruiting guys out of the portal is you don't know if they're finished products or not. Yeah.
And the fact that this was a 5-star McDonald's All-American coming out of high school suggests that there is usually a really high ceiling for those guys. And the numbers that Harrison Ingram has put up in his first few years at Stanford suggest a player that hasn't gotten to that ceiling. Now, that ceiling may no longer exist. Like you said, that's the gamble you take. But if there's any ceiling out there, if there's a coach in America, you'd bet on getting a player to that ceiling. Wouldn't it be Bill Self? So it makes a lot of sense both ways.
So I'm going to follow the reporting of a friend of ours who's really tuned in, and I'm going to say I think that's going to get done. And I like that fit for KU. He might not be the world's best athlete, which we know KU also needs, but I still think it's a good fit and a decent guess for a guy who Self can get to another level. Then we get, though, to the player who is, like I mentioned, and like we heard last week from CJ Moore, like we have heard from Michael Swain, from others, maybe the best player to ever enter the transfer portal is Hunter Dickinson from Michigan. And he has a lot of suitors, specifically KU among them. And, I mean, the fit is obvious, right? Does any coach in America still coaching in 23-24 like playing through a big man more than Bill Self?
No, I don't believe so.
And
maybe Matt Painter, because he keeps recruiting giant dudes,
and no guards, right? So maybe Matt Painter. But when you look at KU's recent success, 2020, the tournament that got canceled, but KU playing through Udoka Azubuike made them the best team in the country. Just a year ago, one extra season ago, they win a national championship. Yeah, Ochai and CB on the wings, and Remy Martin was obviously incredible, but they got the best out of David McCormick at the most important time. They win 11 consecutive games to end the year. They win the national title.
He's a true center.
Yes.
A true 5 in a way that, like, Dedrick Lawson that year for KU really wasn't a true 5.
And KJ Adams
KJ Adams is not a true 5. Yeah.
6'7", not surprising he's not a true 5-man in a Power 5 conference. But, I mean, Dickinson is that. He's got great offensive touch. He's defensively probably not what Bill Self wants, but when he's told us jokingly at his press conference, was that last week or 2 Wednesdays ago, whenever it was, he's like, yeah, we'd love to get a big man who can get you 20 and 10. Hunter Dickinson literally can get you 20 and 10.
Yeah.
He averaged over 18 points a game last year.
Yeah, 19 and 9. Really for the last 2 years, if you're rounding up his averages, giving you 19 and 9 with 56% shooting the last 2 years. Took his 3-point shooting from 33% to 42% last year, taking close to 2 per game. And he blocked close to 2 shots a game too. For a guy who's maybe not like he's not going to be confused with Dikembe Mutombo out there, but his size and agility is going to give him the chance to contest things at the rim. He's not going to get bullied off the floor out there. So this is a really good player. And I think people like Dickinson was a star after the 2022 season. It was a big deal that he came back at all. And if that star has been dulled or diminished in any way, it's nothing to do with Hunter Dickinson and everything to do with the fact that Michigan was buns last year and he had teammates around him and they didn't make the tournament as a result. But Hunter Dickinson's the same guy, like same exact player, productive, and if anything, has gotten better as a shooter. He can finish with both hands around the rim. He can step back. He can hit the mid-range. He can hit the three. Like, this is a player that I think you're right. I don't think there's been a better player hit the transfer portal than this. And whoever he joins is going to be a team that, I mean, if they weren't already, is going to be a team that has a significant chance to make a run in March.
And two, it's the same principle with Ingram, is that these are already good players. And I'm not even saying Dickinson needs to get to another level. I mean, if KU got 19-9 out of their big man next year, they're a national championship contender. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But you go from bad coaching to good coaching. Jared Hayes, KU guy, wish it was working out better. Clearly not working out at Stanford.
No.
You go from Jared Hayes to Bill Self, you're going to take a huge step forward. Juwan Howard, probably not that great of a coach. I think that's becoming a little bit more clear.
I was a proponent of Juwan Howard when he was hired. He's had some good teams there. He's recruited at a high level.
Yep.
There's also been a major talent drain from that program the last couple of seasons. Not all of that is his fault. They've had some one and dones, but including his own son, I believe, was a one and done. Jet Howard. And they dealt with some injuries this last year that were tough too. But yeah, I certainly think it's fair to wonder, like, developmentally speaking, like, how is Juwan Howard developing players? How are players growing under his tutelage? And that's something that we have a small sample size with him, so we don't know if he's not good at that.
Yeah,
but we know Bill Self is.
So these are all the pull factors for KU. Like, that is all of the group of why Hunter Dickinson should go to Kansas. You're going to get the ball. You are going to be the star of the team. It does not matter who else is there. If you're an elite big man playing for Bill Self, you are going to be the star of the team. It's a much more open, even in more defensive games, it's a much more open version of basketball than Big Ten murder ball. So that if you want to play at the next level, much better place to play probably for your skill set coming to the Big 12 as opposed to staying in the Big 10. We know KU's got some NIL dollars. They're doing all right in that department. And, you know, in the greater landscape of college sports these days, that's going to mean something. If you know, hey, I can get money if I go here and I can get a nice, pretty penny, that's going to shoot up your rankings. And plus, you might win a national championship if you play at KU. It's in the cards, at least, that it could happen. Those are the yes factors. The things working against KU, he's from the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia area.
Yeah, the DMV. Went to DeMatha Catholic, high school powerhouse in D.C., and the other schools that are on him are in that area, Maryland, Georgetown.
Including a team that hired his high school head coach and his high school point guard is their starting point guard at Maryland.
Yeah.
His high school coach, I can't remember his name. It's a very common name, but he's an assistant coach for them now. Jameer Young, I believe, is the name of the point guard who played with Hunter Dickinson in high school at DeMatha. He's at Maryland right now. I don't know what their NIL stuff is like. Hunter Dickinson has said some mean things about Maryland before, despite being his hometown team, but those were mostly about Mark Turgeon. And if I speak, I will get in trouble. So I will leave that alone. But that's a tough matchup for KU, I think, because who doesn't like a homecoming story? And for a guy who's kind of played the heel in college basketball and been, the bad boy for a few years, there's probably a part of him, if I had to guess, be like, no, now I'm going to be the good guy. Yeah. Now I'm going to go be the hero. And those people who booed me like crazy for 3 years are going to love me.
Interesting thought.
And for a guy like Hunter Dickinson who likes to talk, and I think, that he backs it up more often than not, I think that might play a role. So I think KU's got a great chance, but nothing is set in stone, I think, when you're talking about a player who is this good. I hope it works out because KU's going to be really freaking good next year if they can get a player like that.
Yeah, I think he would take them from being a fringe preseason top 10 team to top 5 without question. And that's no small thing. So I would like to see it. I think as we sort of laid out, Kansas tends to be better when they got a true center. And this is as true a center as it gets on the transfer portal, and as good of one as you can get.
So that's the big news for KU this week. Hunter Dickinson, by the way, I should have mentioned this. This is totally my bad. He's visiting starting next Thursday. So he's taking a couple unofficial visits because he's already been to Maryland and Georgetown. He's taking unofficials this week. Next week, Thursday, according to Swain, he's going to be in town at KU. Somebody is going to take him to the Hawk, I guarantee it. All right, K-State, though, they are also very busy in the portal. They missed out on a big man this week, Jesse Edwards from Syracuse. Big man, who actually, I believe, knows David Gasson. They're both from the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken.
Edwards has Kansas in his final three.
He has KU in his final three. K-State out, though.
Right.
I assume he's probably the backup plan for Dickinson, I had to guess, which a pretty good backup plan because Edwards is a really good player.
Yeah.
So K-State wasn't able to grab him, and I do think K-State would still like to add some help in the paint. But they are in the running and are arguably the favorites to get two of the very best, I would say two of the three best mid-major players in the transfer portal. Max Asmus from Oral Roberts apparently has a lot of interest in K-State.
Taking a visit this weekend.
Yep. And then Aaron Estrada from Hofstra, who we talked about with Fitz earlier in the week, two-time Colonial Player of the Year. Really good offensive. I mean, really talented offensive player. There's been, and the Go Power Kit guys have reported on this, a lot of smoke there ever since Estrada went into the portal. So there's a couple questions then with that pairing. One, do you prefer one to the other? Two, do you think you can reasonably get both? And then 2B, can they play together? Because if the answer is yes to those latter two questions, you're looking at a team that maybe has some defensive shortcomings. Like Max Asmus was an honorable mention All-American, but it was not for his defensive intensity. I think that's fair to say. But he is a stud scorer. Aaron Estrada is a stud scorer. You might be one of the best offensive teams in the country, given what you're bringing back, what you hope is a jump for a couple of your younger guys, including Naquan Tomlin. You might be one of the best offensive teams in the whole country.
Yeah, you'd love to get them both. And Jerome Tang hasn't been shy about saying he wants two. And I think they need to, because I think there's room for growth for Cam Carter, but I don't think he's a great shooter, and I don't think he's a guy that you can put the ball in his hands and say play the one. Kansas State benefited from having two veterans who could handle the rock and facilitate offense in Marquise Noel and Desi Sills this past season. Asmus and Rosado can both do that. They are much more scoring guards. Estrada. I said, just say Rosado?
Yes.
My bad.
You're good.
You say Estrada, I say Rosado. Let's call the whole thing off. Both guys can handle the ball. Both guys can score with the ball in their hands. They're not the distributors that Marquise Noel became, but I don't think we would have said that about Marquise Noel going into this last season. Like, who's going to be the guy that makes plays for somebody else? We didn't know Noel had that in him until that was his job, and we found out he was, in fact, the best at it in the Big 12 and maybe in the country.
Literally the whole country.
Yeah, won the Bob Cousy Award. So if there's a level of playmaking that maybe is heretofore undiscovered for a player like Asmus or a player like Estrada, perhaps Kansas State is a good place to bring that out of them. I think the ideal would be to get both. Like with Asmus, you got a guy who's averaged over 20 a game in his career, a 39% career three-point shooter, an 88% career free throw shooter. Like, he is dead solid money from the free throw line in a way that, like, Marquise Noel was this last year.
And very few other college players. Almost zero other college players.
With Estrada, you got a guy who averaged 20 a game last year, 37% three-point shooter, averaged a few more assists per game in his time than Asmus did at Oral Roberts. But somebody with, albeit it's only 9 games, but he's got some Power 5 experience, having played at Oregon. K-State would be his 4th school. He started at St. Peter's. He's been a Peacock, a Duck, and a Pride.
What was Hofstra previously? It was something they had to get rid of, I think.
I think they were like the Flying Dutchman.
Oh. Yeah, well, that's not something that you would have had to have gotten rid of.
Maybe not. I thought they were. Maybe I
think at some point there was some Northeastern team that was the Flying Dutchman.
I thought it was Hofstra.
I know they're the Pride. I thought they were one of the teams that had a potentially problematic mascot and thus had to get rid of their name. But maybe
anyway,
I'm wrong.
One way or another, to answer your questions, yes, K-State should try and get them both. Estrada, I think, is better equipped to be the facilitator guard if they only get one than Asmus might be. I might rather have Estrada for those reasons because I think you're going to need a facilitator who can score more so than you need just a pure scorer. But, I mean, if Asmus has his socks knocked off by his visit to Manhattan this week and he commits and Estrada commits, then you're talking about a very exciting backcourt mix next season.
I would love for K-State to get that pair because, again, that's maybe your best offensive backcourt in the whole country, certainly in the Big 12. In terms of the guys who are currently around, do you think Carter can play the 3? Because I think Cam Carter's a starter. But can he play the 3?
I don't think he can play the 3, but you can play 3 guards. Like,
okay.
You know, is he going to play the wing and be like a lockdown wing defender? No, like he's not going to be that. But if you play a 3-guard lineup, I think he's physical enough and a good enough shooter that you have to guard him. So you can play a 3-guard lineup, I think.
Because I think you do have to question what is the exact fit if you do bring 2 guys in. I think K-State's in a spot where you don't, and I think most teams honestly are in this spot where you go get talent. If you've got elite talent out there, you go get it. You know, act first, ask questions later. I think K-State is in a position where they can afford to do that because they've got good coaching and they've got a good nucleus in place already. You want to get both those 2 guys. And I think they've got a real chance at it, to be honest with you. The other team that I know has, and I don't know exactly where Estrada is leaning other than K-State. I know he's put out a top 4. I do know that for Asmus, the other teams expected to be in the running right now are Wichita State, because that's where Paul Mills is, his former coach at Oral Roberts, and then Texas. Texas is in a bad spot right now. They're losing dudes everywhere.
Yeah, they don't have any players. Dylan Mitchell declared for the NBA draft the other day. I think he'll maintain his eligibility, and I don't think he's going to be a draftable player, but...
Well, the 5-star kid who's going to Australia now. We talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I forget his name, but yeah.
AJ something. AJ Johnson?
I think that's right. It's definitely AJ something.
Yeah, AJ Johnson.
Yeah, AJ Johnson. Arterio Morris transferred. He's got legal issues off the floor, but he was a 5-star kid. They were counting on him to step into a lead guard role next year. He's leaving. Brock Cunningham still has eligibility, I bet.
Oh, I bet he does. He's going to be playing the 5 30 minutes a game.
Hey, right now
Rodney
he's playing
Terry.
the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for that team.
That's all they've got. That's all they have. So I think K-State is in a really good spot to at least get one of them. And if they feel like they can play together, I think they've got a chance at both. And again, Jerome Tang might be twitching at some point watching some of their backcourt defense, but they'd score 85-plus points a game with offensive players like that. Your thoughts on the transfer portal welcomed throughout the show, either on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can hit us up in the comment section on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW. By the way, they were the Flying Dutchman. I just looked it up.
Yes, until 2001.
They were named for the guy who founded the university, Mr. Hofstra, but then the administration said, why are we naming the whole team after one guy? So we'll just be the Pride instead, which is whatever. Not really unique.
Lions. It has nothing to do with the Dutchness anymore.
Yeah,
Dutchness.
I think Flying Dutchman sounds cooler, but not my school, not my problem. We have to get to a break. We'll play a little Change My Mind coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. 3:32 on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining myself and Dan today. Myself being Brendan. Change my mind real quick before we get to Matt Derrick and our Chiefs insider. Change my mind, right or wrong, Will Levis is getting drafted before Anthony Richardson.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think Richardson's tools exceed Levis's tools, and I think that's what somebody will draft Richardson higher than Levis based upon.
I think if we're talking about what wins more in the NFL, it's the ceiling of Anthony Richardson versus it is the ceiling of Will Levis. But teams can be so conservative with how they use their draft picks. Even now, teams can be so old school with, well, we know Levis has this, and we know he has this, and Richardson may or may not have that, so we're just going to go with Will Levis. I was reading a little bit today from Ben Solak from The Ringer and his thoughts on Will Levis, and he was saying, I think he's almost become underrated because everyone is saying, no, he's not actually good, and has become so enamored with Anthony Richardson. I am going to side with the teams being more conservative again. I think Levis might go before Richardson. I think Richardson is going to scare some people off. But if someone takes him, if, New Orleans takes, or no, Philly has that pick. But if, someone takes him later on and he pans out, that's going to be a Super Bowl contender because his traits are just off the charts. Truly, quite literally off the charts in terms of athletic testing.
I have a similar change my mind today. Change my mind. The first 4 picks in this draft will be quarterbacks.
Ooh, first 4 will be quarterbacks. All right, so Carolina, yes. Houston, yes. I think Indy will take one. So that'll be either Levis or Richardson at 4. So essentially, is someone going to jump up over the Colts to 3?
Arizona is almost certainly trading that pick.
Yeah.
And if they trade that pick, that's somebody going up to get the quarterback they want.
Oh, for sure.
Who isn't CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. So if you I think it's dead solid certain that the first 3 picks are going to be quarterback. So you think Indy going to take one?
I think Indy's going to take one too. I mean, they have to. And maybe that's a fool's errand saying this is what you need to do to be successful because Jim Irsay could go full Charlie Kelly wild card.
I'm drafting Peter Skoronski.
He really could.
Yeah.
Hard to know, but the Colts have been in this quarterback purgatory for so long. I mean, since Andrew Luck. They tried it with Rivers. They've tried it with Ryan. They had Brissett right after Andrew Luck. It's just, they've got nothing to plan for the future with. So if they don't go quarterback there and they either wait or they try to make a trade or God only knows what, they're probably going to miss the boat again. So I think they have to pick quarterback. So you know what? I actually will agree with that. I think all 4 will be quarterbacks. And then we probably won't see another until day 2. In fact, I think almost certainly we won't see another until day 2.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We've got to get to a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. But on the other side of this break, Matt Derrick will join us for our Chiefs Insider here on 580 WIBW. Nobody covers the Kansas City Chiefs better than Matt Derrick, and he does so for ChiefsDigest.com. And he joins us every Friday, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, right here on 580 Sports Talk for our Chiefs Insider. Go follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and of course, go check out all of his phenomenal work covering the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, we didn't get to talk to you last week. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I guess I'm probably doing just about as well as the Royals are, so.
Well, should I be concerned then? That's a little worrisome, Matt.
No, hey, there's moments of optimism. So, hey, even though things may not always be great, I'm always looking for the silver lining. 82 and 80 in a movie. That's what I'm going for.
Hey, I love it. It is not impossible until they pick up loss number 81, I should say. So we're still alive for that.
Exactly.
I love the optimism. Let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs, though, Matt, because they've been quite busy in the last 2 weeks. And of course, news breaks last Friday when we don't get to have a conversation that they signed a wide receiver. And we'll get to Richie James here in a moment. But first, some news earlier today that the Chiefs are reportedly bringing back Justin Watson for peanuts, really, on a 2-year deal. Do you like the fit bringing Watson back into the fold?
Yeah, I really do. That's always seemed like a good fit. And you look at what he did for them last year. I mean, was he a flashy standout receiver? No, but is he one of those glue guys, niche guys that can come in and give you what you need? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he can play multiple positions. They know that. He picked up everything quickly. Is there going to be a breakthrough in year 2 in Kansas City? I don't think you should expect that, but is he a guy that can give you valuable snaps? Is that, 4th and 5th receiver, give you a little bit of work on special teams? Absolutely. You need a roster for those kind of guys. And looking at the way that this receiver room is building out right now, if he ends up being that, maybe that 4th, 5th, 6th guy, that's a great situation. So more depth, which is what this receivers room is built on, is adding depth to it. We'll see if they can, deepen it a little bit more, maybe at the top. But right now, I think you got to feel better, at least as far as the construction of the roster heading into the draft and not having any obvious needs. Justin Watson fills one of those holes.
Based on what he does for this team, he's a vertical threat offensively. Mahomes really likes him. Andy Reid, we know, really likes him. He can contribute on special teams as well. Are you surprised at the report that it's just a max value, $6 million over 2 years? I know we saw that, I think, from ESPN earlier today. I figured he might be able to get a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I thought there was a possibility, but the longer the free agency went, I mean, I think that he kind of fell into that category that, his best chance of maybe getting a bigger deal was to wait until after the compensation deadline in May. But that doesn't always necessarily translate into big dollars either. But, what is Justin Watson? You could easily make the case that there's 100 guys in the NFL like him. But I think he has a lot more value to the Chiefs than he does to other teams. He's been in the system for a year, fits what they do really well. Like you said, I mean, he gives them a deep threat. There's a lot of things that he can give you. So I think he's one of those guys that gives more value to the Chiefs than maybe he does some other teams. So the value of the deal doesn't surprise me. And obviously they gave him some incentives too as an opportunity that he does have a big year. He's going to get paid a little bit more.
Our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. Go find Matt's phenomenal work covering the Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com, and you can find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. I mentioned it a moment ago, Richie James into the fold too. That was made official earlier this week, and it was reported last Friday afternoon. I thought James was a nice player for New York last year. Didn't have a ton of yards per reception. In fact, a career low there, but he had career highs in yards, touchdowns, receptions. He was a very useful player for that New York Giants offense. What do you think of his fit with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I do like it. I mean, he seems like a guy that as an ascending player, there's an opportunity for more growth. Kind of interesting. I mean, he was a former teammate of Traverse Ward, and the Ward's now in San Francisco. That's where he started out. It was in San Francisco, and had a little bit different career numbers there. I mean, he was much more of a big play threat, deep threat guy. Well, did he have the quarterback that could give him the ball? Yeah, that's the difference between what he had in New York last year. And in last year, he was able to show the ability to be a different receiver. I mean, it was a different offense and showed a little bit different skills. So is James kind of guy that can give you maybe a deep threat? Can he also give you the underneath short stuff, threat too? Yeah, I mean, he looks like he could be one of those guys that's a multiple threat option. Is he a 1,000-yard receiver? No, I mean, that's not where I don't think the player he is. But based on his season last year, is he kind of guy that, hey, can give you 600 yards and maybe in a breakout season, be an 800-yard guy as a solid number 2 or number 3? Yeah. So I think a sneaky good signing. I mean, it seems like they're really fitted with what the Chiefs need. And again, just lengthens that group so that you're not going into the draft thinking to yourself, if you're the Chiefs and you don't walk out of the fourth round with a receiver that can at least give you your number 5 or your number 6 guy, you're in trouble. Now, they could go play a game tomorrow with the squad that they have right now. I think they'd be comfortable with it.
Matt, it's probably not fair to say that a player is just a 1-for-1 replacement for another player, but do you feel like there's any McCole Hardman in Richie James, that the way the Chiefs might get the best out of him is doing some of the things that they did with McCole Hardman last year, or things that they tried to do with Sky Moore in his rookie season, some of the gadgety stuff, maybe some punt returning?
Yeah, probably a bad terminology for him, but he is going to feel like a little bit like maybe a poor man's McCole Hardman. And maybe, hey, if James has a breakout season, maybe they'll be the other way. They are similar size. I mean, James is a little bit smaller. But and Hardman's a little bit faster. But you look at some of the ways he's been used. I mean, yeah, he's been used in the backfield before, not as extensively as Hardman has, but that's kind of a wrinkle that you can use with him. And yeah, I mean, I do think that there's some gadget things that you can do. And honestly, I mean, if you're the Chiefs team that's going to build your offense around the idea that you're going to have a Kadarius Toney in the offense, I think you kind of maybe need a backup for a guy that if you lose him, you're not just taking that entire element of the game plan and throwing it away. He's not Kadarius Toney. He doesn't have that kind of electric skills, but you can see how, once again, that this is a guy who's got a kind of a niche role. He's not a guy that would play multiple positions, but you feel like that he can complement a few of the things that you've got right now. Maybe there's even a few wrinkles that you can build around specifically his skills.
Again, we're talking to Matt Derrick. He is our Chiefs insider that joins us every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com and check him out on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, with the signings that the Chiefs have made this offseason, the players that they've either retained the services of or brought into the team, is there a position that they absolutely must address in the draft? Do you feel like, is there a position where if they don't come out of it with a day one contributor at that position after the draft, you feel like they maybe misplayed the draft? Or have they put themselves in a position of ultimate flexibility where they can just kind of react to the draft board and how it plays out and go get the guys that they want, the highest ceiling players at whatever position they need, and kind of ignore necessarily a positional need?
I think they have finally gotten into that second category. I mean, I think that they are in a spot now where they can truly go positional need. And, hey, you say you're just talking about 2 wide receivers. Well, that was I think you could honestly say that this team was lacking 2, maybe, 53 quality receivers for your roster, right now. And before the 2 signings with James and Ring Watson back. So I do think that clarifies things. You look at the other positions of need. Do you need an edge rusher? No. I mean, you've got 2 guys right now that I think you'd be comfortable starting. Do you need depth? Would you like to have some depth there? A guy that could come in and be an immediate punch? Sure. And I think that would even apply to defensive tackle as well. I mean, you've got 2 guys who started for you last year. You've got some depth. But, hey, could you get more punch there? Absolutely. The other position I think you look at is offensive tackle. And that's where I go back to Jawan Taylor being a really good signing. Once again, I mean, the Chiefs are planning on him being their left tackle. If a scenario drops into their lap where they can get a left tackle another way, including through the draft, if it's a day one starter, they've got that option. So I don't even think right tackle is that absolute desperate need. I mean, I think that with the players they've got on the roster, they would be comfortable going out and playing with one of those guys. So I don't think that you're sitting at 31 and saying that there's any one position that you've got to walk out of there with. I thought that they were that receiver in the middle rounds, where if they didn't walk out with a receiver, maybe in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, you were going to say that there was really a spot missing on the team. I don't think they're there right now. I mean, I think they can pretty much go situational need and also be able to use the 10 draft picks that they have to maneuver the board if they have to.
If they do end up targeting a wide receiver, pass catcher of any kind in this draft, what sort of blueprint do you think they'll follow? Maybe that's a clumsy way to word it, but what do you think they'll prioritize is a better way to ask you when it comes to looking at a pass catcher to bring to the team? Is it size? Is it separation ability? Is it speed? Do they have a prototype you think that would be a best fit to go along with the pass catchers they've already got?
I mean, that is a great question because I do wonder about that, because I think we as covering the team and even Chiefs fans, project needs onto the Chiefs that sometimes they don't feel that they have. I'm probably in that category. I mean, I look at this team and I think to myself, hey, if they had a dominant type, 6'4", elevate, go up the field, contested ball kind of guy, that's just the one player that's missing from this offense. But I haven't seen the evidence that the Chiefs really feel like that's what that they need. That's something that they're missing. I think if anything, I think they would rather double down on and back up the positions that they have now and make sure that if they were missing a piece that they're building their offense around, that they've got somebody else that can step in and play that role. So I don't know if they really have a type other than, that they're just looking for the best pieces that kind of match up with Mahomes. And I think this draft is really interesting in that regard because receiver seems to be the one position that there is a divergent opinion about just how the quality of this draft. I've seen anywhere from 1 to 4, as far as projected first round receivers, and really whether there's quality depth at the top. I think there's concern down the road. I mean, you start looking at the pocket, you're looking at what pocket of receivers might be available in the middle or late round. I think there's question marks there too. So I don't know if there's anything that really stands out about this group that, if you're Brett Veach, you're saying to yourself, man, this is a really deep receiver group. Really need to make sure we get to one of those guys. I don't know if that's the true thing about this class. And until I see the Chiefs really go out and target a specific type of player, I think they're going to stick with their model, which is, they're going to get some speed. They're going to get some guys that they think can catch the football, make moves in space, and probably some other characteristics that we project on them, like height and size and strength. I don't know if that's as important to them as the rest of us maybe sometimes think.
We've got a few minutes left with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. It's our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and you can find his work at ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, regardless of position, you can be a receiver, tackle, edge, any position on the field, who are some of your guys for this draft? Guys you've seen or scouted or, even just seen highlights of and said, man, that guy is a dude. He's going to be a player. Love watching him. Think he'll be an impact guy. Who are some of your guys for this draft?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a couple of them. There'll be a few more. I haven't found anybody like Brian Cook was for me last year. That's my true draft crush. But there's a few names here and there. I mean, Derrick Hall, the defensive lineman from Auburn. I mean, I think he'd absolutely be a perfect fit for the Chiefs. I think there's some pockets where he would be available even at 31. There's even some scenarios where maybe he's available later in the second round. I mean, that's a guy that I think would really fit in well with this team. The receivers, I just don't know what to think. I mean, Quentin Johnston, I think is probably the best fit for the Chiefs, just barring and setting aside, Jackson Smith and Jigba, because I just don't think he's going to be available or within reach. Johnston might not either, but if he fell to 21, I'd probably start to get interested really quickly because he's, I think, a pretty exciting player to me. Still getting into the defensive guys, there might be a few, and by my first mock draft that was up, one of the more obscure players in the draft. I'm not even sure he's going to be on a lot of teams' draft boards, but there's a kid from South Carolina State, and I'm blanking on his last name right now. I think it's Shaq Callahan, something like that. He was just an absolutely incredibly productive receiver at South Carolina State, and I think about a guy like Joshua Williams and the Chiefs going and hitting the HBCUs. I wonder if that might be a guy that they look at.
It feels like that might be kind of an area, in the Moneyball term, the market inefficiency, like, hey, there's some really good players at these HBCUs that aren't getting a whole lot of attention. They're not on TV. Maybe that is going to be something the Chiefs can take advantage of. You mentioned Derrick Hall from Auburn. That name came up earlier in the week. We went through some mock drafts we found from analysts around the football internet, and that name came up a couple of times, Matt. I was worried that he might be a little bit small for what the Chiefs generally like from their defensive ends. Do you think that the size maybe isn't as big of a deal, or do you think that maybe he's just talented enough that it makes sense no matter what?
Yeah, him. I think he is talented enough no matter what. I mean, I see a lot of bend there. There's just a lot of ability and athleticism that I don't think you just can't teach. And I could see, that being a player that Joe Cullen could really get some stuff out of. And I think he also fits in with, flexibility. I mean, he seems like the kind of guy that can roll up at multiple positions, play some different spots. I think I saw him even, lining up inside a little bit at Auburn in some passing situations in third down, and that's something obviously the Chiefs would love to do with their defensive ends, is kick them inside in those spots. And I could see him fitting in really well with that. The size is really the only concern, but I tell you what, you look at a lot of the outside of the height and weight and a lot of the measurables and the metrics and everything. And he really, to a large degree, stacks it pretty, favorably. And the production is there as well.
Shaquan Davis, I believe, is the player from South Carolina State.
There you go. Thank you very much. That is exactly who it is.
Well, and seriously, I mean, has there been any team better than the Chiefs in recent years than finding, that are able to find guys in rounds 6 and 7 who become immediate contributors? That seems like the exact type of pick that's right up the Chiefs' alley, Matt.
Yeah, and that's one of those positions that they look for. I mean, they do look for production. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, hey, you get a guy like Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, he was productive in college, and they, didn't let that fact scare them off. I mean, there's some teams that just, fall in love so much with the measurables and everything that they just forget that sometimes, making plays on the field is important. And the Chiefs always kind of favor that in the late round. So, yeah, I mean, I look at a receiver that, got back-to-back 900-yard seasons. Hands were a problem for him the last couple of years, but I think he has just as many touchdowns as he has drops, and he had like 20 touchdowns the last couple of years. So, hey, if I can teach if I can take Shaquan Davis some hands, I think he's got a potential.
Go check out all of Matt Derrick's coverage of the Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. He joins us every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk for our Chiefs Insider. Matt, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
It's a pleasure, guys. Take care, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. And that'll do it for the first hour of 580 Sports Talk. Come on back. We're talking a whole bunch more coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. now 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, getting started on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. Also online, 580WIBW.com, and on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW. Brendan Drzezinski, Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock tonight. Then we've got a little 580 Sports Talk overtime. We will dump it off to the Royals Radio Network then at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour for pregame, and then just after 7, we've got first pitch as the Royals take on the Braves in the first of 3 games over the weekend. Again, that is all coming up this afternoon and this evening here on 580 WIBW. Coming up this hour on 580 Sports Talk, we'll chat a little bit more about the Chiefs, their wide receiver situation. Justin Watson back into the fold for no money, essentially. They got him for free by NFL salary cap standards. We'll find our weekly champion in What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. And we've got much more to get to as well. All that is coming up here on 580 Sports Talk this hour. We are still taking your texts, 785-272-9429. And we are taking your comments on YouTube. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Hop on in. Let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the show today. Justin Watson, it was announced, is coming back to the Kansas City Chiefs. 2 years, $3.5 million. 1.4 is guaranteed, and there are enough incentives to get it up to about $6 million full value if he hits those thresholds. Even if it had just been $6 million with the same amount guaranteed, I mean, I think the Chiefs and Justin Watson probably would have been happy with that. I mean, that for a guy who's really bounced around the league and didn't do much of anything when he was with Tampa and got to be part of the team last year. That's good money, but I really thought he might be able to make a little bit more than that, honestly. But Matt Derrick's point was fair at the end of last hour that, look, we're late in free agency now. The draft is about to start. Hard to know exactly what you're going to get, if you're going to get anything from anyone. I don't remember if it was Matt or our other Matt Verderam, who had mentioned that Watson coming back was a fair likelihood earlier in the offseason. But, man, even before we get to the breakdown of the fit and his production from last year, you get a guy who is an NFL caliber player who can, take a handful of snaps a game offensively and contribute on special teams. $6 million for 2 years is nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah, it's, couch cushion money when you compare it to the salary cap and what other wide receivers in the league make. The fact that it's a 2-year deal, I think, is telling. The fact that it's a multi-year commitment to Justin Watson suggests that the Chiefs like what he brings. Now, whether that's his size at 6'3", he's the biggest member of that wide receiver group. Whether that's the speed that he has, he showed some big playability last year. I think it was a 46-yard touchdown against the Chargers in week 2. Had the 67-yard completion from Mahomes in week 18 against the Raiders. Whether it's just his sheer dependability. I mean, he was the guy that was there when guys were dropping like flies, when Juju's knee acted up, when Kadarius Toney had the bad hammy, when Hardman got hurt down the stretch. Did you know Justin Watson started 5 games for the Chiefs last year?
I did know that, mostly because I saw it earlier. But I knew he had started technically once or twice. I did not realize it was 5, though.
Yeah, not only did he start 5 games, his snap share in those games was that of a starting wide receiver, too. It wasn't the... he started this game because we started in 5 wide receiver personnel and then we took him off the field and he played 6 snaps. No, he was playing 70, 80% of the snaps in those games. He's going to get thrown the ball a lot. And look, we're talking about a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. Obviously, there are some flaws in his game. He's not a great separator at the line of scrimmage. He had the lowest catch percentage per target of any Chiefs player this past year.
Not great.
Although that's not, that stat needs context. A
lot of his targets were deep throws.
Right. Which are less likely to be completed passes.
Exactly.
So there's context that may explain that, makes that number look a little less bad. But he did have 21 yards a catch in his 15 receptions, which was the best number on the team. So there's something there. And the Chiefs liked it enough to outlay 2 years to it. I strongly suspected that Watson would come back. It feels like Mahomes likes him a lot, likes having him. He had the trust of Mahomes and Andy Reid's trust, even if the numbers, the stats, or the snap counts in some games maybe didn't match that. But I think there's something to be said for a wide receiver in his mid-20s, so athletic prime, with some good size, with some good speed, and with durability on display, the ability to be out there for all 17 games plus the playoffs. That's valuable. And the Chiefs decided it was valuable enough to bring back on a 2-year deal.
So what are you actually getting with Justin Watson? I think you're getting a piece that is, dependable even more so than the fact that he played all 17 games, but dependable in the sense of what you just brought up, that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid like the guy. And if those guys like you, you're going to end up finding a role on the team. And again, he can contribute on special teams. He can be there for the offense. I am curious if in a second year with the team, he ends up being more than just the token deep ball guy when we need a token deep ball guy out there. And using the token sounds more derogatory than I mean it to be, but that was the majority of what they were using him for, and it was successful. You mentioned the 60-plus yard catches for the year. He was useful and usable in those roles, but I do wonder if they want to use him or are planning to use him in any other way, or if they're willing to say, you know what, we'll just stick with what we've done before and be done with it. And you're going to go out there for 10 snaps a game, and you're going to run deep, and sometimes it'll be clear outs. Sometimes they're going to put their worst corner on you, and you're going to have to make a play. I don't know exactly what it will be. I would imagine, though, if you've already brought in now 5 guys who are at least NFL rotational wide receivers, ran through them earlier, MVS, MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Richie James signed this week officially, and now Justin Watson. Those are 5 guys are NFL contributors.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got a bunch of guys who are fighting for roster spots. Amir Smith-Marsette's played. I think he was active for 1 game for the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. John Ross, Justin Ross, Cornell Powell is still there. Like, those guys are all fighting for space. I imagine with those many guys and probably a draft pick, plus all your tight ends fighting for receptions and playing time, I would think they think Watson can do more, because I feel like that's enough guys where you can find token deep ball guy from that group.
It suggests to me that if the Chiefs do draft a pass catcher in this draft, I think it's more likely to be a tight end. I think at this stage, that's how I feel about it. And I don't think that's a reflection on Noah Gray or Jody Fortson, who I think are NFL caliber players. But I think they have a foundational 5 wide receivers. Not that they couldn't upgrade on those guys. Not like if they go and get Jordan Addison, he'd be arguably their best wide receiver.
Yes.
If they want to go get a wide receiver 1 in this draft, a true wide receiver 1, which right now their wide receiver 1 is Travis Kelce. Pretty damn good, but he's also a tight end. And I could see me having a lot of egg on my face in 2 weeks when they turn around and they take a guy like Zay Flowers, or they jump up in the draft. They use some of that draft capital we've talked about, and they trade up a handful of spots for Jordan Addison or Jackson Smith and Jigba or whomever. And that becomes their wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 at that spot. But you laid out all the guys they have carried on the practice squad. They've made sure to hang on to those guys. They went to lengths to make sure Justin Ross was around, that Amir Smith-Marset was around. They've got 5 guys that, outside of Richie James, Mahomes has now had a year, or at least half a year in Tony's case, to play with, to get comfortable with. They'll have a full off season together. I feel like the place you can raise the ceiling even more dramatically is by bringing in another major pass catching threat at tight end. I know there's a Jody Fortson hive. I know there are people out there who really believe that the Jody Fortson breakout is just around the corner any minute now. And there have certainly been some flashes of that, but he's also been a guy who struggled to stay on the field and hasn't played a lot of NFL games. And maybe that's what you upgrade on, it tight end 2 or tight end 3. And that maybe that pushes Blake Bell out, and Noah Gray is in that Blake Bell role. And I could see that being something that they look at in the 2nd round, in the 3rd round, maybe more so than looking at wide receiver. I think the broader point, and we talked about this with Matt in the last segment, is that the Chiefs have done enough, I think, in this offseason to go into the draft without a position of dire need. Like last year, they went into the draft, they had to get an edge guy and they had to get a cornerback. And they got both of those guys, starting caliber guys at those positions. And Karlaftis became a starting caliber guy. They didn't need a starter, but they needed depth there. They had to get a guy. They had to get a body. They weren't sure if they could count on Frank Clark. They needed somebody who could factor in from day one, if not necessarily a starter. And Karlaftis certainly did that. And they needed a starter at cornerback, and they moved up in the first round to get Trent McDuffie and make sure that they got that guy. They don't go into this draft, I think, with a similar dire need where it's like they've got to get this guy to plug in at this position, to play this role or play this many snaps. They can let the draft come to them in a way that maybe they haven't been able to. Maybe they weren't able to last year. And I think that puts them in a hugely advantageous position going into 2 weekends from now.
So I just went back to the Chiefs' Super Bowl roster, and I wanted to see how many skill position players they carried at the end of the season in total. So we're taking running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. And I do think running backs play a role here for something we've brought up before. They carried 15. And now, not all of them were active for the game itself, though, but they had multiple guys at running back. They had their full accompaniment of tight ends, and they had 6 wide receivers as well. And I might have missed one, actually. So I was trying to figure out, how do the position player breakdowns unfold right now going into this season? Because you've got those 5 wide receivers we talked about. You've got your 4 tight ends. You've got 2 running back options right now. I mean, LaMichael Pirine is on the roster. He got a futures deal. But Clyde Edwards and Isaiah Pacheco. I don't think we're entirely certain Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be on this roster by May 1st. I'm not sold on that whatsoever. So you've got some flexibility here. I still wonder if I think the Chiefs are going to take a pure running back at some point. I still think they should sign McKinnon. I know you do as well. I do wonder if, as opposed to going with another fullback, a true fullback like they had with the sausage Anthony Sherman, like they had this year with Michael Burton, I still wonder if Blake Bell just becomes more of an H-back hybrid tight end role. Fill that when needed. And then you end up with a little more flexibility, both at running back and tight end, and add an extra player.
Could Noah Gray do that?
Gray could do that. And we've seen him go under center and do that before. But I wonder if that was just because this is the Blake Bell play and we don't have Blake Bell.
Yeah.
So it's certainly possible. Gray, I mean, 6'3", 240 pounds. He's actually heavier than I thought he was. He's only 12 pounds lighter than Bell, despite being 3 inches shorter. Bell's 6'6". He's a big man. That's a large human being. Gray could do that, in theory. And I guess the other option here is if you are planning to find tight end 2, Noah Gray doesn't really need to be tight end 2 anymore because that's what he's been. And you can move him elsewhere because, hey, we like you. We like having you on the roster. We like the things you can do. We need a different role for you, though. Maybe he ends up being your H-back player. I just think doing that with guys who clearly have that skill set, Bell certainly does, and I think Gray probably does too, it gives you a lot more flexibility because I could not tell you the last time an NFL team carried 5 true tight ends into the start of a season. That seems like a lot. Now, by the same token, you could argue, Bell got a 1-year deal. Maybe you just say, hey, Blake, thanks, but no thanks, we're going to move on. Maybe it is Forts, and you say, Jody, it sucks you've missed so much time. You've worked really hard. Appreciate it. You got your rings. We're going to move on from you during training camp. I don't know what that's going to look like. And someone would pick him up for sure. I think would pick either of those guys up. But it's just hard for me to see 5 true tight ends going into the 53. But this is the best class of tight ends we've had ever, maybe, in terms of just prospect talent. If you end up with Dalton Kincaid, your team is better by having that guy. If it ends up being Michael Mayer, your team is better because you have that guy. Or if it's the second round and you take Luke Musgrave from Oregon State, or you take Darnell Washington from Georgia. Dude, I love, who hasn't gotten talked about at all, is Sam Laporta from Iowa, who I think is a day 2 guy, probably day 3 at this point. It's hard to see 5 tight ends going in the top 62, but I think Sam Laporta might be a very solid NFL player. In fact, I'm hoping the Packers draft him because he feels like the perfect fit for what Green Bay likes to run. So you've got so many options there. It would almost be foolish not to take one. It just makes your numbers look a little weird. But again, if there's any team that can make it work, even with weird numbers, it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, because of the number 15 where they have a quarterback.
And
you make it work.
And Andy Reid. I mean, a guy who can scheme up anything for anyone.
But I just think that's really valuable for the Chiefs to be able to go into the draft and not have a spot of dire need. And I think it's probably pretty rare. I mean, even last year, they go into the year as they went into the draft considered a team with a roster that would make them one of the favorites in the AFC, and they still had a needed edge and a need in the defensive backfield. They go into this draft. You could argue that tackle is that position. You could argue that it's not good enough with Juwan Taylor learning a new position and Lucas Niang maybe is your tackle number 2 right now.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that's position where you've got to go and get somebody who can play week 1.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is where the Chiefs are in the war room right now. That's their thought process is, well, we've patched holes acceptably at wide receiver so that if we end up not maybe getting the guy we want at that spot in the middle rounds, we'll be okay. But our target for day 1, round 1 is our bookend with Juwan Taylor, whether that's Anton Harrison or any of the other Harris Johnson, any of the other tackles that they might really like, might have to move up in the draft to get. That might be the one position where I'd listen and say, okay, yeah, they could benefit. But as we've sort of speculated on this show, and I know that Jake and Fulton on Mic'd Up have speculated this as well, maybe they just really like Lucas Niang. They've stuck with him through thick and thin. And maybe there's a belief that Lucas Niang is an NFL caliber starter at right tackle, that he can at very least replace what Andrew Wiley gave you last year. Andrew Wiley played a hell of a game in the Super Bowl, and he will be a legend forever for the way he neutralized Hassan Reddick and the rest of that Eagles pass rush in the Super Bowl. But for the bulk of his time as the starting right tackle, he was just fine. Like, just average.
Yeah, he was the weak link, but he wasn't bad. Yeah.
And if the Chiefs think that Lucas Niang can be that, then they've got their right tackle on their roster right now.
See,
and that's not a huge bar to clear.
Right.
Even though our last image, the last thing we saw of Andrew Wiley was he played like prime Jonathan Ogden, only on the right side in a Super Bowl. But for the balance of his time, he was just a guy, just a league minimum kind of player.
Mm-hmm. See, I think I view Niang differently because I seem to remember last season hearing some whispers later in the year that the Chiefs weren't super happy with where he was. And Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star, he actually did a sit-down Q&A with Bill Barnwell from ESPN this week. It was a great read. Barnwell's so good at covering the NFL. And he said that it is his understanding, or based on what he knows, he gets the feeling the Chiefs are not content with just Lucas Niang. So I don't know, because I think your logic, Jake and Fulton, their logic as well, I think is totally sound. I also trust that Bill Barnwell knows what he's talking about. So I don't know. That to me is the most intriguing spot that the Chiefs have to deal with. Like edge, we know what they're looking for. We know what they need out of that spot. It's obviously kind of ho-hum at that point. Like, yeah, we know the basics of what they're looking for there. Wide receiver, it almost feels like pass catcher. I think it's better to just say pass catcher at this point. I think it almost feels like we're just going to get so many dudes with so many different skill sets plus speed, and we're going to see what combination works, which I really don't hate given your quarterback and your offensive system. Offensive tackle, though, I'm just so curious. What do they want from the right tackle in terms of what do they want that skill to be? Because it's been kind of a revolving door since Mitchell Schwartz. And how badly do they think we need one of the early guys versus, well, we like a developmental kind of piece later on? I just think that's fascinating because I don't even know. And maybe Matt Derrick could have told us a little bit better, but just based on the kinds of guys they've added through the draft and even through free agency, like, is there a clear trend of what they want from tackles? Like, you go get Lucas Niang, who had accolades in college and was a big body. That was a big dude. And it thought, okay, maybe size is their thing. Well, he was hurt and he opted out of 2020, and it hasn't quite clicked as of yet. Andrew Wiley he's like generic. Like, if you started a create a team in like Madden 03 and your 70 overall right tackle was Andrew Wiley, like, okay, yeah, he's just there. Like, wasn't especially fast or crazy athletic or crazy. You're just like average and everything, which worked out and he got paid. And I'm not using that as a slight against him because he's had a nice career and he's going to make a lot of money in Washington. Not a slight against him one bit. I'm just curious what, kind of to our point yesterday, what are the Chiefs going to look for at this spot? I really don't know, and I don't think they've given us kind of a threshold they want to clear when they're looking for that tackle. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they moved up to get Darnell Wright in round 1 in 13 days. Maybe I wouldn't even be surprised if it's round 3 and we say, dang, are they going to take a tackle? And they get one at 95. I'm not entirely sold on knowing what do they want from their tackles, because maybe there's some sort of piece of information I'm missing that would dictate I'm barking up the wrong tree when it comes to picking who they might pick. I don't know. I would like to think that I know, but maybe I don't. Hard to say.
Right. But that's what makes it interesting, because I think, like I said, last year, you knew what they needed and you knew exactly what they were going to do. And this year they've left themselves a lot of options, and they can play the best player available game, or they can zero in and say, this is the guy we want. This is as high as we're willing to trade up to maybe get that guy in round 1. They are hosting the draft this year. Maybe there's a thought that, hey, we could trade up a few positions, excite our fans, maybe make a little bit of a splash on day 1 with who we take.
Make sure our fans can beat all the traffic. Don't have to wait all the way till 11 o'clock. Get them out a little bit early. No, that to me is the most fascinating spot of all the Chiefs' needs. What do they want in their right tackle? Because we know they need one, whether he's on the roster already or not, but I just don't know exactly what that player is going to end up looking like. We'll take your thoughts on the Chiefs draft, any specific players, any needs, any of that on the text line 785-272-9429, or you can let us know in the YouTube comment section as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our YouTube channel and live stream. Let's take a break. We'll find our weekly winner and what is wrong with you coming up after this on 580 Sports Talk. It is time to find our weekly champion in What Is Wrong With You here on the final Friday, final day of the week, this Friday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you. Our What Is Wrong With You, as always, is brought to you by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. Top City Metal Supply can be found on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our champion for the week picked up the win yesterday, the idiot who did not want to pay tolls on his motorcycle going to Lakeland, Florida. So he took the back license plate off his motorcycle. Before that, he was stopped by a police officer, and then being spooked by being pulled over, this guy who would have had to pay like a couple bucks in fines decided to then speed away on his motorcycle and ran over the deputy, rammed into him on his way beyond the cop car. So instead of paying, a couple bucks in tolls, he could have gotten a $116 non-moving violation for not having a license plate. Instead, he is going to face a maximum of 5 years in prison, a $5,000 fine, and losing his license for multiple years. All because he didn't want to pay tolls.
That's tough.
2 new stories going head-to-head today. Dan, why don't you start us off?
We have had a banner week for Florida man on What Is Wrong With
Really
You.
have.
We've had naked, greased up Florida man. Yesterday, we had 2 Florida men.
We did.
Had motorcycle driving Florida man. We had drunk Florida man. Today, we have shirtless Florida man. Shirtless Florida man was found hiding in a tree on Tuesday, 2 hours after allegedly fleeing Port Orange police. 33-year-old Jonathan Kaiser was accused of speeding away from police during an attempted traffic stop. Bad idea. Don't do that. When the police pull you over, don't try and speed away from them. They've gotten to see your license plate up close. They're going to find you. Police used stop sticks to damage Kaiser's Nissan Maxima's tires. A Volusia County Sheriff's Office aerial unit found the vehicle in a backyard. Man, they sent a bird out after this guy. Kaiser and his passenger, 31-year-old Caitlin McCartney, abandoned the vehicle in that backyard. McCartney was arrested nearby, charged with resisting without violence, possession of paraphernalia, and a probation violation. The nearby Edgewood Police Department's K-9 unit was called to the area to search for Kaiser. They found him hiding up a large oak tree about 2 hours later. Body camera video showed officers telling Kaiser to come down from the tree and warning him not to run away or they would send one of the canines named Draco after him. Kaiser moved down towards the end of the branch, appearing to run away in the tree, as one officer described it over his radio. He's literally in a tree right now, trying to climb it like Tarzan, an officer said, shortly before Kaiser was caught on camera, trying and failing to swing from one branch to another.
It really was like Tarzan.
Kaiser dropped to the ground after dangling from the branch for a few seconds and tried to run away from the officers, but Draco got him first.
Good.
He was taken to the Volusia County Jail. He was charged with fleeing or attempting to elude police, driving with a suspended license, operating an unregistered motor vehicle, leaving the scene of a crash with property damage, and 2 counts of resisting police without violence.
Sheesh.
George of the jungle, strong as he can be.
Watch out for that tree. What? Again, I just don't understand how your brain gets to a point where you think, I'm going to swing from tree to tree here.
Branch to branch. I got this. I've seen this in movies. I'm going to be able to connect from one tree to the next.
Yeah, no problem at all here. I'll be just fine.
Wonder how far he fell.
I mean, that's got to be 10 plus feet, right?
You would think. Otherwise, police would just be able to reach up and grab him.
You also really couldn't swing at that point. I'm clipping the ground. You just walk over to the other tree.
Yeah, that's why I think it's maybe a little higher. Maybe up to 15 feet.
Yeesh.
Yeah, he take a fall there. I mean, credit him for trying to get up. No match for Draco. Draco the dog.
You ever climb trees as a kid?
No, I was never a big tree climber, no.
Yeah, me either. I don't think I've ever actually climbed a tree before. I mean, I feel like I did once maybe because the branches were really low and you could just sort of step up. And did it at a park once, I think. But no, never a tree climbing kid. It was never something we did. My story today is not going to take us to Florida. We're actually going overseas. We're going to Colombia, where the mayor of the municipality of Calima could find himself in a spot of bother, as written by the Daily Star, after a wild video emerged of him dancing almost nude in a nightclub
And you can't do that anyway.
His
Never mind if you're the mayor.
And his you know what fell out. That was out.
I'll bet it did.
All to see.
Yeah. The words in the URL.
Mayor filmed dancing topless penis. That's what the URL
the URL.
Says. So we meet Martin Alfonso Mejia, who is the mayor of Colima, who whipped off his shirt in a video at this nightclub before gyrating his hips in front of stunned partygoers. This is not exactly Channing Tatum either, dancing in Magic Mike. Mr. Mejia.
More like Channing Tatum.
Got him! The politician can also be seen standing on a bench, pulling his trousers down to show off his bare backside in front of a group of young women. The R-rated clip concludes with what appears to be another man attempting to hide Mejia's modesty. His antics didn't go too well with his peers, which occurred during Holy Week in what a largely Catholic nation. Duvalier Sanchez Arango, a member of the Colombia House of Representatives, commented, quote, "The responsibility that politicians have obliged to us to show exemplary behavior in public. Concerning the inappropriate acts of Mayor Martin Mejia of Colima, we are calling for a disciplinary investigation by the Attorney General's office and by the Green Party." Mejia has since blamed his actions on being drugged at the nightclub, something that the venue's boss has vehemently shut down. This is also not the first time that his partying has been the subject of controversy. 6 months ago, Mejia appeared to be intoxicated at a music festival where he took a stage and then informed the revelers that he was corrupt.
Man, Colombian politics are awesome.
Yeah, this is wild. This dude got up, got drunk, got on stage and said, "Guess what? We're taking bribes. Selling to the highest bidder. I am corrupt."
You guys, you have no idea. I'm in the back pocket of so many people.
The rumors are true. We are corrupt. I am corrupt. So there's your topless, pantsless Colombian mayor.
Man.
Going up against Florida Tarzan today.
Ruined everybody's vibe at that club, too.
For real. Like, the quote about doing it in front of some young women. I have been to a bar or a club a time or two in my life. And, like, everyone who ever has the image in their head or even seen, like, a movie of a group of girls, like you're trying to impress them and you do something wholly unimpressive, and then they all give you the stink face and they walk away and they giggle at you. Like that's something you don't ever want to experience. That was this with this portly mayor of Colima.
I know other countries are a little more free with the body publicly than we are here in the United States. But even that, I got to believe, is frowned upon in Colombia. Like, you go out in a night of the town in Colombia, you go to the club, and you don't expect to see the mayor hanging out with his chief of staff.
Oh, my God. Jesus, man. Jeez. It's Feel Good Friday, all right. Who you got today? It's two really good stories. It's been a good week. Really good week. Hell, it's been a good year so far for What Is Wrong With You.
Yes, I like both of these stories, man. This week has had some absolute heat.
It has.
We may look back on this as the week that What Is Wrong With You peaked in 2023. I'm gonna go with Florida Tarzan today. Just the idea of swinging from branch to branch, just that occurred to him in that moment.
That is a lot more pleasant to visualize than the nether regions of your town's mayor getting up in your business.
Also, then we don't have to revisit a URL with the words dancing topless penis in it on the work computer.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
So
IT is going to give us an email here soon.
Yeah. So we'll go with Florida Tarzan, but I don't think he beats the guy that faces 5 years in jail when all he had to do was pay like $6 in tolls.
Yeah, that one's the winner for me. He ran over a deputy. Dude, just pay the tolls. It's fine. I'm sure Florida has some, F-Pass, F-Tag or something. Just pay them and move on. That is our winner for the week in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up after this. We're back on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. It's actually Dan's favorite weekend of the year. It's weekend number 1 of Coachella.
Was that right?
Yeah. I know Dan's a big fan.
Who's at Coachella this year?
That's a great question. I am going to look it up right now. I saw a lineup for a rap festival in Chicago this summer. A full lineup was just announced. And I meant to send it to Jake because one of the funniest things I can remember in recent years is when we were at both Big 12 Football Media Day in 2021 and also that summer at the Washburn Summer Basketball Camp when Brett Ballard brings in players from KU and K-State and they, do counseling stuff with the kids and they sign autographs and, we get to talk to them. And we asked some of the players for K-State, both basketball and football, who they've been listening to, like what's on their summer playlist. And they're listing off rappers that I had heard of most of them. Jake, it was like you were speaking Swahili to him. Yes. It was completely out of his element.
Yeah, I can't believe the guy who got real confused when KU brought Little Yachty in for Late Night at the Fog would be not hip to the latest developments in hip hop and rap music.
Extremely funny. I think I knew 14 on the roster for that festival. Your Coachella festival, by the way, Bad Bunny headlining tonight.
Sure.
One of the biggest acts in the world.
Yeah, massive star. And also like legitimately maybe good at professional wrestling too.
Not maybe. He is awesome at wrestling. He's like a lifelong wrestling fan. And he was at WrestleMania last year and stole the show. Like, whoa, hold on. This dude can do it. He can move. And he's shown up multiple times since. He's a huge fan. He is awesome at wrestling, which is super cool. Other performers today, Gorillaz performing. The Chemical Brothers.
Okay.
Can I interest you in K-Tronada? Is that how you say it?
Yes,
K-Tronada?
that's how you say it. It's some interesting music.
Metro Boomin.
Want some more.
Pusha T is there today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thumbs up for me.
Do you know who Youngblood is? I've heard of them. I don't know anything.
I got nothing for you.
That does it for artists I know today, I think. Tomorrow, Blackpink is your headliner. I'm gonna be honest.
K-pop.
K-pop. I did not realize that they were big enough in the U.S. to headline a festival. And Eric Prydzi is going to be there as well.
Okay.
Call on me.
Yeah, I know Call on Me. Yeah.
I don't know much else about Eric Prydzi, but that song's a banger.
Call on Me was big when I was in college.
Iconic music video for young men.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, we all know the Call on Me video.
Boy Genius, you know who they are?
Yeah, it's Phoebe Bridgers, Maggie Rogers, and the other one.
Yeah, Lucy Dacus.
Lucy Dacus.
Yeah. This girl.
That's not very nice.
Emo girl super group. Jeez. Charlie XCX, big fan of hers.
Yeah, big pop star.
I've
great
seen her
songs. Great
before.
songs.
Yeah, Chromeo. You ever heard Chromeo?
Yeah.
Montreal techno music. Oh man, they're awesome. They're electrifying. That does it for tomorrow. I have no idea who any of these other acts are. Frank Ocean on Sunday.
Okay.
Bjork's gonna be there.
See, like I know who these people are, but like I don't love the music that we're talking about here with those.
Porter Robinson. No, Porter Robinson.
I think he had a song on MLB The Show one year.
Electronic music, yeah. I'm gonna be honest. This looks like the weakest festival lineup I may have ever seen. Like, if you're really into hip hop, I guess that's probably good for you, or K-pop, but which is Korean pop music, by the way, in case you were not up with that.
Trying to see who else. Hey, Ray Shremmerd's there on Sunday.
Yeah,
that's cool. They'd be fun.
Alex G. I was big in my college radio days, but a lot of Alex G.
Trying to see who else. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else for you on the Sunday lineup.
No.
Wet Leg, I like. They're there tonight. Wet Leg is good. Toby Nwigwe is good. He's an interesting rapper. I've heard some of his songs.
Even this is way above my head.
Why is Idris Elba there? Does he do music?
Okay, is that the same guy that the actor? Yeah, apparently he's a DJ.
Is that right?
Yeah, I guess he's DJ'd at Coachella before. Yeah, the actor.
He's just DJing a set?
From April of 2019, Vulture.com wrote a story called Idris Elba's DJ set was actually great.
Super disrespectful that Stringer Bell only gets like the third line the fourth line billing gets less billing than Eve's tumor.
We're going to post this on the YouTube feed so folks can see this. But so I thought of this earlier because, one, I saw that other festival in Chicago and I was going to make fun of Jake not knowing any rappers. But then I also saw this on YouTube or on Twitter, pardon me, during What Is Wrong With You. Someone is currently flying, the flat planes that have the banners on the back. They're usually advertisements.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are advertising their OnlyFans account at Coachella.
That's funny.
Yeah.
They used to fly those over, I don't know if they still fly them over sporting events the way they used to.
Man, I can't remember seeing one of those at a sporting event recently.
I think there was one flying over Jerry World before the Big 12 championship game. I forget what it was advertising.
There was. Oh, man. No, I could
one
not
of those
tell
big
you.
banner planes. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be one that would fly over Rockies games. And so this is like Mile High Stadium, Rockies games. So the first couple of years of the Rockies' existence when I was, pretty young, and it was advertising free buffet at Diamond Cabaret. And I asked my parents, we go to Diamond Cabaret and take advantage of the free buffet. And they told me no and did not follow up. It's Diamond Cabaret. You might be able to surmise.
Uh-huh. What was the neighborhood where all those are in Denver?
Oh, gosh. Is it Glendale? I think it's Glendale.
Glendale, yeah, because we had a story there.
Yes, Shotgun Willie's. That's where John Morant was waving guns around.
That's right. It was John Morant.
Yeah.
John Morant at Shotgun
I don't know
Willie's.
if he hit up Diamond Cabaret.
Similarly, I've been to the Lollapalooza Festival in Chicago numerous times, and every year, one company that you can bet on, I'm sure, flying a banner over the festival is Trojan.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's just smart advertising.
Yeah, Lollapalooza has, even more so than I think the average music festival, a bit of a reputation as a festival goers like to enjoy that particular
Bacchanalia.
Yeah, that particular pleasure. Yeah, you don't see that at sporting events all that often that I can remember. Europe, though, like English soccer, you'll see that all over the place.
Yes.
Because usually it's, so-and-so out because they want their manager or owners fired. Glazer out. What do the Glazers own?
Manchester United.
Man U?
Yeah.
Wow. Imagine owning the Buccaneers and that's like pocket change in your portfolio because you own Man United. They're not even like the big dogs anymore, though.
No, Manchester. They're not even
the
big dogs in
Manchester.
City. Yeah. Manchester City and their oil money overtook them a couple years back.
Wow.
They're the big bad wolf.
Are there any teams over there that aren't owned by either an American sports company or by, like, I'm talking Premier League or like blood money?
That is an awesome question. Like we can think of the big clubs, like Manchester City is a Qatari oil concern. Newcastle was just bought by the PIF, the public investment firm of Saudi Arabia, same company is doing Live Golf and all that. Yeah, and they bought Newcastle about a year and a half ago. Liverpool is FSG, Fenway Sports Group. They obviously own the Red Sox and other things.
Bournemouth is owned by the guy who owns the Golden Knights of Vegas.
I did not know that.
Yeah. William Foley.
Fulham, I think, is still part of the Khan family portfolio.
Yes, still owned by Shad Khan.
Folks who own the Jaguars, AEW Wrestling. Chelsea's new owner is also a American sports team owner. Arsenal's owned by the Cronkies, Stan Kroenke, who obviously owns a bunch of American sports teams. So, yeah, that's, oh, man.
Okay, Leicester City.
Yeah, Leicester City.
That's not blood money.
No, they're like a Thai
travel retail.
What's
King
that?
Power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, King Power International Group. They are a Thai travel retail group based in Bangkok.
Okay, yeah.
Owned by I cannot say the gentleman's name.
No.
And I apologize for not knowing the family name, but I'm going to butcher it so terribly, I'm not even going to try.
No, that's a boutique investment for like Americans these days. Is, hey, let's buy a soccer team. Like, look at what that's done for Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds,
yeah,
and Rob McElhenney. Yeah, they've got a.
Have you watched that show?
So I've watched the first handful of episodes of the first season. Just haven't been able to sit down and watch it. Couldn't get my wife into it, so it's going to be one of those like I'll watch it kind of thing. And I just haven't sat down and watched the rest of it, but. They appear to be very close to achieving promotion into what's known as the Football League in England, which would be a big deal. It's been a while since they've been in the Football League.
Yeah,
would be the
Pretty
top
crazy.
4 tiers of English football if they do get promoted.
Oh, so that includes the Prem?
Yes, you
They're
have,
in
you
that?
have the Premier League, the Championship, League One, and League Two are the 4 top tiers. Those comprise what's known as the Football League. Everything else is like different stuff. It's all connected. You can get promoted and relegated, but
that's interesting. So is league in that sense in football league, like, is that just sort of a general term? It's not like an exact thing. I'm trying to come up with an American comparison.
It's it's just a consortium of like those 4 leagues, like doing business. Like there's the Premier League that does its own business, and then there's just like the top 4 leagues are consolidated as the Football League.
All right, fair enough. I suppose that makes enough sense. Yeah, I hear people talk about how much they want American sports to include that because maybe it'll get rid of like tanking or certain things, but it will never happen.
They're not designed that way, first and foremost.
Right.
Like minor league sports in America survive because of their connection to the major league teams that they are affiliates of. Like if there were not like full-throated support of the G League affiliates by NBA teams that usually own them, then the G League would just be, it would be the old CBA with like when the Topeka Sizzlers were doing their thing. And like that league had teams folding and like ceasing operations mid-season, like all the time. Minor league sports just works differently here. That's just our sports culture. It's different.
Barbara in the YouTube comments asks, what team did Ryan Reynolds buy? So Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who is most famous for being Mac on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, among other things, they bought Wrexham AFC, which is in Wales, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And they're the 3rd oldest club in the world?
I think so.
Oldest club in the UK?
It might be the oldest club in Wales. Yes, and the television show is called Welcome to Wrexham. You can watch it on FX. You can watch it on Hulu.
And they sucked for years and years and years. They've been awful. And I think the whole premise was, we're friends. We bought a team together. We're going to make a documentary series and try to get them to get promoted. And as far as I can tell, it works. Because now whenever they play, people are tweeting about it all over my timeline. Like, how are you watching 5th Division English soccer?
They're on the FIFA video game.
Really?
Yeah.
How cool is that? Where you've got more 580 Sports Talk, including our headlines, next hour here on the program. Hey now, 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. Brendan Dworzynski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending some of your afternoon hours here with us. Thank you for jumping into the text line, 785-272-9429, and into the YouTube comment section as well on our channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. By the way, we were talking some footy, not my favorite kind of footy, but European footy during last hour. Have you been watching a lot this year? Is your Liverpool team, the Pool Boys, doing all right?
No, they are a huge bummer, actually. They all got old and went into the toilet at the exact same time. The Winter World Cup certainly did not help an aging team keep their legs fresh. And they are very likely going to miss out on the Champions League, which will cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, which means they will not be able to be as active replacing all of the old players who went into the toilet this year as they might otherwise like to be. It can be a tough climb out of the toilet, relatively speaking, for a club that expects to be in the top four every year. Just ask Manchester United, who is only now escaping out of the toilet. Took them about half a decade to do it. Hopefully the same fate does not befall my beloved Pool Boys. They still have some players that I like very much, and with Jurgen Klopp, all things are possible. This has been Talking Soccer.
We had a comment from Mark on YouTube who says that the Prem has been awesome, especially this year.
Not for me, buddy. It's been a huge bummer, except for the game where Liverpool threw Manchester United into the deepest pit of hell and beat them 7-0. That was fun.
Yeah, we're okay. 8th. That's still better than Brentford.
The standards at Liverpool are a little higher than better than Brentford.
My Leicester City squad sucks, so you got that. I mean, not that I ever pay attention, but I lived there for a bit.
So, like, the thing about the best clubs in the world is that they play a lot, because you've got the 38-game club season, and then you've got the Champions League, and then you've got, the club competitions in the middle of the season. For English soccer, there are two of them.
Yeah.
There's the FA Cup, which is every club in the country and in the kingdom, and then there's the Football League Cup, which is the teams from the top four leagues we were talking about. You get bonus points if you were paying attention earlier. The four top leagues. So there's all these competitions, and Liverpool played in the finals of every one of those competitions last year. So they played last season as many games as it is possible for a top tier European soccer club to play. And which, on the one hand, that's really cool. They won 2 trophies last year. That was dope. And played in the Champions League final and went to the final day with a chance to win the Premier League before Manchester City beat them to it. I think that kind of maybe wore them out a little bit. I would imagine that would be incredibly draining, especially since we're not that far removed from the weird COVID stuff. Yeah. And then they had, like I mentioned, the Winter World Cup. So your best players, when you're, again, one of the best teams, you're playing international competition nonstop. So, like, your best guys get run ragged.
Yeah.
Because they're your best guys. And, you get fatigued, and your fitness dips and your form dips, and you suffer injury that you had to deal with. And yeah.
You mentioned bonus points. If you can remember the 4 leagues, the top 4 leagues in European soccer we talked about last hour. Here's bonus points for you. First person to text in the top 4 European soccer leagues gets a Royals Family 4-pack.
Top 4 Europe, English.
Yeah. English. Not all of Europe. English.
The English Football League is comprised of 4 leagues.
We'll spot you the Premier League.
Then there are 3 others. If you're the first person to text it in to 785-272-9429, we'll set you up with a 4-pack of tickets to go watch the Royals. Any game of your choice, we'll set you up. Just text it in. And if you're the first, we'll hook you up.
You might even get a soccer scoring total.
You might
get a soccer-looking score.
If Chris Bubic is on the bump.
That's right.
Great video. By the way, if you folks follow me on Twitter, at Dan Lucero Show, I retweeted a video earlier today. Lance Brodkowski, who we've brought up on the show before, does a lot of research about pitcher stuff, pitch shapes, pitch break, observes how those things change and makes observations about that on Twitter. He was the one that first called to my attention, which let me call to your attention, that maybe Chris Bubic might be good now, or at the very least interesting. Well, he did a whole video explaining what's different about Chris Bubic with some data, some graphs, some images, some watching Bubic in action, seeing his new pitches, watching him this year. Really fascinating stuff. And I would highly recommend it. If you follow me on Twitter, to take the 10 minutes and watch the reinvention of Chris Bubich.
Yeah, it's
not a thing I thought we'd be talking about in 2023.
No, it is very cool. By the way, we've got a winner.
We do.
From the 620, Justin, he got him. The Champions League, League One.
The championship.
The championship. I'm sorry. Championship. League One and League Two.
Yeah.
Plus, we spotted you the Premier League.
All right. So we got our winner. And Justin, I'll be reaching out to you shortly via text.
Yeah, we'll hit you up and
hang tight.
Get you some Royals tickets. We got Royals tickets to give away all season long, and we'll have some fun with it. Usually we do, trivia, call in, but we'll mix it up every once in a while.
You threw that at me like a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Caught me off guard.
Well, I probably should have mentioned something beforehand, but it popped into my head. I knew we had some tickets to give away, so I thought that'd be the best way to do it. So we'll get you taken care of, Justin. Thanks for playing along. And again, we'll have Royals tickets to give away throughout the course of the season. Right now, though, during the course of this 5 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk, we have to get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got plenty more to get to throughout the hour, but let's jump into our headlines right now. First one for me is a somewhat unfortunate headline coming from the world of college basketball. A top 30 recruit in the country, a 5-star prospect, unfortunately, he's committed to Memphis. He has actually been arrested and is facing gun charges in San Diego. He was arrested Thursday night. Mikey Williams is his name. Now, you may not have heard of him, but there is a chance. Well, if you follow recruiting, you've definitely heard of him. But there is a chance that if you've got kids who are on Instagram, TikTok, any social media really, you've heard of Mikey Williams because he has been all over social media for years to the point where he has made upwards of millions of dollars at this point from his social media standing. And no, that's not overselling it. Like, this kid still owns homes and luxury cars and stuff. He has been a big social media deal for a long time. San Diego Sheriff's Department Lieutenant Gavin Lanning said that Mikey Williams, who is, again, a top 30 prospect in the country, had to pay $50,000 bond to get out after he has been charged with assault with a deadly weapon in the San Diego area. There are multiple counts of assault with a deadly weapon against Williams, but he is likely, according to Lanning, only going to face one charge. That charge is that any person who commits assault upon the person or another person with a firearm, that carries a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison and could face at least 6 months, although obviously these things can play out in different ways in the court system. Memphis, where again Williams is committed, is, quote, aware of the situation and is gathering more information. According to the incident report from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office, there was, the way this all set up, an argument at a home on Monday, which involved multiple people being asked to leave the residence. That then led to 5 people getting into a car, and as they were driving away, shots were fired. The car was hit, but no one inside was hurt. There were also multiple minors involved in this situation. Williams was arrested after a search warrant was executed. The sheriff's office said it will not release any other booking details because it only does so when there is an immediate threat to public safety. Again, Williams was at one point in time considered a can't miss, have to have 100% 5-star out of 5-star prospect. That has since dipped a little bit. Still a really highly regarded prospect. 24/7 Sports had him as a high 4-star. The 24/7 Sports composite had him as a low 5-star. And the number 26 overall player in the country. KU was intimately involved in his recruitment over the last couple of years.
There was also a lot of talk he was going to go to an HBCU. Like he might, there was a lot of talk he might go to Howard, but ultimately chose to play for Penny Hardaway in Memphis. He's the crown jewel of that recruiting class. But that's if he can stay out of trouble, which judging by some of the whispers on social media, like this kind of behavior is not super out of character for this young man.
Yeah, and that's where you run into a lot of like where's the line between like what is fact and what is fake. And to that point, I mean, there's a lot of whispers that Mr. Williams likes to both flaunt that he's got stuff from, this brand he has built for himself, but also talk a lot about how he came out the mud. I think that is a phrase that is thrown around a lot by a lot of athletes in particular who come from, rougher upbringings. I'm trying to dance around this because I don't, he's 18 years old. Like, I don't want to totally dump on the kid, and who knows what truly happened here, but it is a bad situation.
Yeah. Cause it's one thing to act in such a way that makes you say, man, grow up. But like, this is There's
This is firing a gun at someone.
Yeah, shooting a gun at a car full of people is not exemplary behavior.
And there's an element of tragedy at any situation, no matter what comes of this. There's an element of tragedy that, like, you're 18 years old, you've already made a huge name for yourself.
Mhm.
You've got a major opportunity ahead of you, maybe the NBA one day, even though your recruiting rankings have dipped a little bit.
Mhm.
You don't want to throw that whole thing away. Memphis has been in an unfortunate situation with a couple of guys recently who have had off the court problems that they've recruited, and that's not necessarily a reflection of Penny Hardaway or Memphis necessarily.
Right,
but,
because you're talking about different degrees of, like, James Wiseman's was academically related.
yeah, Amani Bates, he got in trouble after he left Memphis when a gun was found in his car, I believe. This is fairly significant, though, and hope that, whoever was victimized in this case ends up being okay. Hope that nothing is, too serious here, but assault with a deadly weapon, not a charge you want to hear.
No. Not typically. No. We could use a lighter side story.
Absolutely.
After that. Hey, where do you come down on flavored milk?
When I was a kid, I loved it. You give me one of those strawberry Nesquiks. Oh, yeah. 100% here for it.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, don't know if I could do it. I haven't had a strawberry Nesquik since I was probably like 9.
I had a Yoo-Hoo the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Tasted great. Made me wonder, like, every time I have chocolate milk, which is like once every, like, I have a biannual glass of chocolate milk, and it makes me wonder why I don't drink chocolate milk more often. Chocolate milk is delicious.
It is.
I don't know where I come down on other flavors of milk, but there are lots of people who enjoy flavored milk. And there's a company based in Osborne, Missouri called the Shadow Milk Company. That's Shatto.
Chateau, yes. Derrick has talked to us about this before.
That's right.
Yes.
Chateau. I'm sorry.
They
My
have
apologies.
lemonades as well, which he has offered to bring to us.
So they are a family-owned dairy farm, Chateau Milk Company, and they have released a couple of milks celebrating the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh.
One of those milks is called Golden Age. That's an apple pie flavored milk. That's not the one that got the article written about it. An apple pie flavored milk celebrating the Chiefs' second Super Bowl win the past 4 seasons.
I think I could do that one.
I think I could probably do it too, because milk tastes good with apple pie.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Yeah. We've got another flavor here as well. This flavor is called Eagle Tears, and it's cheesecake flavored, and it comes in a commemorative glass bottle. The side of the bottle says, in part, "Have you ever tasted Eagle Tears before? Neither had we, but we got to say we weren't expecting their flavor profile to so closely resemble cheesecake. Cheese steak, maybe, but not cheesecake."
Okay.
Bottling them was no easy feat. We had to conquer the West, defend our home turf twice, and travel all the way to the desert and back. Make no mistake, Kansas City, the contents of this bottle are very precious cargo.
That's pretty funny.
For those in the Kansas City area, Eagle Tears can be purchased at Chateau Milk Company's farm store, area grocery stores, and through home delivery. They are also selling commemorative bottles on their website. I don't know if they come with the milk, if they're going to ship them, but yes, flavored milk to celebrate a Chiefs championship.
Do we know if we can acquire this in our area?
I couldn't tell you. No, I do not know.
I think we looked once and we weren't able to. I don't know. That might be a bridge too far for me.
Cheesecake flavored milk. Yeah, I don't, but it might be fun to have the bottle.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
you were a Chiefs fan, maybe you just want the bottle.
Yeah, you get through it so you can have the collectible. I had some cheesecake when Abby and I were in St. Louis last weekend. It was really good. Well, Abby ordered it. I had a little of what she didn't finish. It was really good. I hadn't had cheesecake in a long time. I'm very picky about it. Like, I do not have it often, but every once in a while I kind of get a craving for it. I don't know about cheesecake milk, though. I don't know. Regular old 2% is usually good for me.
Yeah.
You know what chocolate milk is good for? Recovery after working out.
Really?
It's really good for you. Klay Thompson was part of a campaign for that a few years ago.
I had no idea.
When I used to run every day and work out, I used to just keep gallons of chocolate milk in my fridge. And I'd come home and drink it every day.
You crushing Nestle?
Yeah. It was awesome. Not gonna lie. That was pretty sweet.
Only the pre-made stuff, or like if you fix your own with the quick?
No, it was pre-made for me. This was back in my true bachelor days. And I was eating a lot of pre-made food, a lot of fast food.
Yeah, you were.
But then sometimes, like, not eating at all. Like, I'd come home, put down, like, 16 ounces of chocolate milk, and then I wouldn't eat till, like, 10:30.
Now, of course, you're a little more civilized.
No, entirely. And I'll come home and have a nice meal. And yesterday, I went to the gym. I went for a run on the trail behind the sports pavilion in Lawrence. Came home. My wonderful wife had eaten already, and there was still food out to make some sandwiches after. And it was very civilized. However, she's going on a couple of work trips in the middle and latter parts of the year. There will probably be stretches where what happens last time she went on a work trip when it was 12:30 on a Thursday night, and I realized, I haven't eaten. And I will have to go eat. I got Taco Bell that night for what it's worth.
Yeah, your options get pretty limited around that hour.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. My body is probably very thankful that I eat more normally nowadays.
That it'd be like that less than it used to be.
Yeah,
like
right.
That. Yeah.
Continuing on with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. How about some big money being exchanged in Major League Baseball? The San Francisco Giants have reached a 5-year, $90 million contract extension with right-handed starting pitcher Logan Webb. That deal will take him through the 2028 season. Webb, 26 years old, he has a 31-22 record in his career, an ERA of 3.53, 426 strikeouts in 80 starts since he made his major league debut back in 2019. Hasn't been phenomenal to start this season. 0-3 with a 4.76 ERA. He was the team's opening day starter as well. Great last year, though. 15-9 ERA under 3, 163 strikeouts, almost pitched 200 innings even. He's a workhorse.
Yeah, so everything the Giants did in 2021 was completely fake and not real. That was the year they won 107 games and stole the National League West from the Dodgers with a bunch of dudes having completely out of nowhere career years that were in no way replicable. Webb was kind of a breakout star, their pitching staff that year. In 2022, things kind of regressed back to the mean for most of those Giants. Yep. But Webb, as you mentioned, was really good last year and durable. Took the ball 32 times, pitched 192 innings. His strikeout numbers went backward last year. They've jumped back up so far this year. He's got a 22-3 strikeout to walk ratio in his first 17 innings of work this season, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
He also really good at keeping the ball in the ballpark. Usually that hasn't been the case for him early this year. 4 home runs allowed in 17 innings. Last year, he allowed 11 all year.
Wow.
So, sinker ball guy, keeps it in the park. He can miss bats. He doesn't walk people. He takes the ball every 5 days. Yeah, that's a $16 million a year pitcher that you lock up through his late 20s and into his 30s.
Worth it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really not that bad, honestly, given what elite pitchers make.
Yeah, that's the going rate. Yeah,
so that's not too bad.
I got a baseball story, too. It's a very different one, but it also involves a National League West team. And we actually have breaking news on this within the last half hour. Rockies mascot Dinger was attacked while on top of the first base dugout earlier this week.
Is there video of this out there?
Yes, there is video of this out here.
I need to go find this.
Dinger, who you may know as the beloved by children anyway, purple dinosaur mascot of the Rockies since 1994, was doing a little dancing and shimmying on top of the first base dugout at Coors Field between innings, and a gentleman who'd maybe had a few, probably a few too many, decided to take a run at Dinger. He went for the double leg takedown. If you know anything about wrestling, you know the double leg takedown.
Of course.
Dinger fought it off in such a way that made me think that maybe Dinger is familiar with, maybe he wrestled in his high school or college days, but he was able to score an escape, if you will, of the double leg takedown. But what was wild was somehow the gentleman who had sprung out of his seat and climbed up onto the first base dugout roof and attacked the mascot in full view of everybody managed to get away and leave the ballpark.
How does that happen?
I don't know how security, especially Coors Field security. Look, if you've ever been to a ball game at another ballpark that is not Coors Field, you probably have had a certain amount of success deciding maybe, hey, it's the 7th inning, ain't nobody here tonight. we're going to go ahead and we're going to sneak down to some lower level seats. Where our seats are in the upper level, the 300 level, we're going to sneak into the 100 level for the last couple of innings. Nobody's down there. These seats are obviously not going to be filled. The home team is losing 10-3 in the 8th inning. Let's go watch the last 2 innings from some really cool seats. Coors Field ushers will not let you. They are on their job. They are zealous about their job of keeping the riffraff out of the 100 level. And yet those same ushers, probably because all of them range between 80 and 90 years old, were not able to catch the attacker. Well, today, after Denver police issued a $2,000 reward for any information, 45-year-old Kenneth Sonley turned himself in to Denver police today.
Old.
He has been charged with disturbing the peace.
That's it? Not battery? He tackled the dude.
I don't know if there's a battery charge. I know it's disturbing the peace. The tweet I got the information from said also being booked on assault of a dinosaur, which I don't think is a real crime. So I don't know. I don't know if he's being serious or not.
See, I'm not even charging the dude. I'm just saying don't do it again. Disturbing the peace.
He has been cited for assault. Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. That's probably right. The video is, I mean, it's bad because this guy was attacked unwillingly and unwittingly, but Dinger's just kind of dancing. He's just shimmying in about 180 degrees. And as he's still dancing, the guy comes up and lays him out. And it's kind of a funny video and, for bad reasons.
So I'm no fan. I like mascots.
Yeah,
I've never been wild about Dinger. Even I was at the game where he hatched. Okay. I was at the game, 1994, Mile High Stadium, where the Rockies unveiled their new mascot. And the story behind it, the reason there's a dinosaur, A, this was the early 90s, Jurassic Park was a big deal. But also, B, they found actual fossils on the site where they were building Coors Field. It was a big deal when it happened. They were starting to, dig up the ground and make the plans for the ballpark, and they found actual dinosaur bones. So they brought out this big egg on a fake egg on a flatbed little gator, and the PA announcer's doing this whole thing. So before a game, they were playing the Montreal Expos, and the egg started to shake, and then the top of it popped off, and then out comes Dinger. And I just remember, even at 8 years old, I was so unimpressed. It looks like Barney, and you're 8 years old, you're probably to the point where you don't think Barney's all that cool anymore. So I was always kind of nonplussed by the whole Dinger experience. But I can confirm from years and years of going to Colorado Rockies games, children love him. Children get a huge kick out of Dinger.
I believe that.
So he is beloved in his way, which is to say with kids in a way that most mascots, if you can classify them as beloved, it's probably because they do some cool, the Nuggets mascot, Rocky, is beloved by everybody. I love Rocky so much. He's my favorite mascot there is. The San Diego Chicken is beloved by everybody, or the Philly Fanatic. Dinger is very much kid friendly.
Reviled by adults.
Adults aren't his biggest fans, but still, man, you can't make a run at the mascot unless he flirts with your wife or hurts your kid. You cannot take a run at the mascot.
See, I'm going to be honest with you. If you are going to take a run at a mascot, don't. But if you are, I'm not going for a freaking double leg takedown. I'm hitting him with the diamond cutter. I'm going for the stunner. I'm at least going to hit a spear. I'm not going for an actual a amateur wrestling move. No. And hell, he got away, so this guy obviously wasn't going to do it. I'm putting him in the sharpshooter. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it. I'm going to knock him down and run away. Pansy stuff.
Just Rockies fan apathy has never been higher than it is right now. Trust me, I'm very aware of that. But where are the rest of the people in that section to wrestle down the guy who took a run at the mascot? I wouldn't have let that guy leave the section.
People really hate Dinger.
Give me some help. Pin this man down. He will answer for his crimes.
I'm leaping up and I'm hitting the tornado DDT. I'm bringing him right down to the ground.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, hurts the giant purple dinosaur that is the mascot of my favorite baseball team.
Except with mean tweets.
And who doesn't wear pants.
Why do mascots not wear pants?
I don't know.
Clark the Cub doesn't wear pants either.
Clark the Cub, big no pants guy.
Yeah, we're out on Clark the Cub too. There's no need. Completely unnecessary.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Clark the Cub, get out of here. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines on this feel-good Friday afternoon. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look ahead to Royals Braves this weekend on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, 533 on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. We've got some 580 Sports Talk overtime coming up at the top of the 6 o'clock hour.
Re-racking Matt Derrick for that, if anybody is curious.
Yeah, so if you missed our conversation with Matt Derrick, you'll be able to hear it coming up top of the 6 o'clock hour before we get to Royals pregame coverage on the Royals Radio Network. By the way, real quick from Mark on the YouTube feed, says that he's a big fan of both Slugger and KC Wolf, the Kansas City mascots.
So what's the deal with Slugger's head? Like, is it like surgically attached, the crown, or is that just how his head grew?
I figured Slugger like grew up on 3 Mile Island or something.
Is it a mutation?
It took a trip to Chernobyl and didn't end well.
I like Slugger. I have Slugger bobblehead.
I do too, yeah.
The Royals flag. Yeah.
I think that was the was that the year we went with the
on the bus?
Yeah, the bus trip.
Yeah.
I think that was that year.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I got the Slugger bobble. Slugger's fine. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm out on KC Wolf.
No,
I'm not a KC Wolf guy.
It's a little strange because his name is KC Wolf and he's not really a wolf.
No, he looks like a rat. Looks like a big fat rat.
He does.
Like if Rizzo gained a lot of weight. That's what KC Wolf looks like. I'm sorry to KC Wolf.
I do like his reactions to made or missed kicks.
Okay.
I get a kick out of those.
That's
like
fair.
when he'll beat his head against the upright.
Yeah, that's funny. Maybe not great, with the concussion thing. Maybe.
Well, it's only the pad, right?
That's true.
He's
That's true. He's being safe about it.
He's headbutting the pad. Yeah, he's being smart about it.
Not
Not going to Gus Farad himself on the pad, hopefully.
Yeah, of the local mascots, I'm cool with Slugger. I'm out on KC Wolf. Big J and Baby J are fine. They're chill. High five Big J a number of times. They're fine.
So the thing about Jay and Baby J is they keep getting put in dance-offs at the NCAA tournament.
And it does not
with the mascots from historically black colleges and universities and getting absolutely washed. Like
it's a good thing that KU won the national title last year, because if not, the only thing anyone would remember is Baby J getting cooked by the Texas Southern Tiger.
Yes. Oh man, that was bad. Baby J looked like me at my wedding, and the Texas Southern Tiger had a little more rhythm.
Yeah, she got cooked. I actually know one of my good friends is a former Baby J.
Is that right?
Yeah. They I'm not gonna. Well, I'll share the story. Why not? She and my other really good friend, their first date was inside an empty Allen Fieldhouse because they had a key to get in.
Hey,
they were mascots. So yeah, it was their first date. It did not end the way some other former KU basketball players' dates inside of Allen Fieldhouse have ended, but that's a little more X-rated.
Jesus,
it doesn't. You
all
can
right.
find those stories. Pretty
All right.
My least favorite mascot of all time, though. He resides just 45 minutes to our west.
Yeah, you're not a Willie fan, are you?
No, it's a dude with get a real costume.
See, that's
and don't give me during football season he wears pads. I don't want my mascot to wear pads. I want to not have a mascot head on a human body. That's weird and bad.
That's why I like it.
No, no.
That's why I like Willie. He dares to be different in a world of full body mascot suits.
No.
Willie dares to be different.
I'm anti-Willie. 100% anti-Willie. Get some mascot clothes. Come on.
You got the towel going.
100%. 0 out of 10.
Wrong.
Willie the Wildcat.
Wrong. Big Willie the Wildcat fan over here.
My favorite mascot's Benny the Bull, though. Love Benny the Bull.
Basketball mascots are generally the best
because they can dunk.
Yes.
The Phoenix Gorilla, also in that list. Also great.
So Rocky, the Nuggets mascot, Rocky the Mountain Lion, his thing for many years was like during a timeout in the fourth quarter, he will try and make an over-the-head half-court shot.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll stand with his back to the basket and just shoot the ball over his head and try to make it. Became more proficient at it than you would expect somebody wearing like giant fake paws and standing facing away from the basket to be at making the shot. When he makes a shot, the crowd goes crazy. Anyway, the old Rocky retired last year, replaced actually by his son, which is kind of a sweet story. Yeah. But we could all tell it was a new Rocky this year when Rocky went many, many games without coming close to making that shot.
That's pretty funny.
Like, yeah, Rocky not continuing the fine tradition. But here's the best. Here's the best I could give you about the appeal, the generational appeal of Rocky is I remember Rocky coming to my school twice.
Wow.
Once when I was in, I think, the 3rd or 4th grade, so he came to my elementary school, and once when he came to a pep rally when I was a senior in high school.
Mhm.
And when I tell you, elementary school kids and high school kids marked out for Rocky showing up on his motorcycle. Like, I'm telling you, man, he gets a crowd, he gets a huge pop wherever he goes. Everybody loves Rocky.
Yeah, on the motorcycle, that'd be pretty sick. That'd be awesome. Benny the Bull.
Our varsity basketball coach was so mad.
Really?
About the mascot
Really?
coming out with the motorcycle.
Why?
He's going to tear up the floor.
Dog, it's hardwood. It'll be fine.
I know that.
Come on.
He didn't. He was concerned.
Benny will take the gigantic, like, 10-pound bag of popcorn and just walk through the crowd, and then they will play a sound or someone will blow an air horn or something, and then he just throws it all over.
Yeah.
Gets the whole section covered in it.
Yeah, Rocky's done the popcorn thing before.
Great bit.
Super gag.
We do have Royals baseball. Slugger will be in action coming up this weekend at home, even. It'll be Royals versus Braves. Your pitching matchups, Brady Singer versus Charlie Morton tonight. Chris Bubich versus, I just put his first name, or his last name here, Elder, not Glenn Elder.
Bryce Elder.
Bryce Elder. And then Zach
Glenn
Greinke,
Elder, I believe, is
to our west.
Yes.
And then Zach Greinke versus Kyle Wright coming up on Sunday. I said it yesterday, Bubich versus Elder is the game. Well, Bubich against that Braves lineup is, for me, the game of the weekend.
Yeah. The 3rd start for Chris Bubich. We've seen some real changes. We've seen some real gains for him. Let's see if he can hold it against the best lineup that he will have seen to this date, and probably the most right-hand heavy lineup that he will have seen to date. That is a fascinating start. I think Singer's start is also interesting in that regard. Been a bit of a bumpy start for him. Like I've said, I think he's behind a little bit in his preparation, but I think this should be the first time we should expect to see Brady Singer as we remember him from last year. This is he's had 2 starts. It's time to start seeing the Brady Singer who can put hitters away, who can get the ground ball, who's efficient, which he's been efficient. That hasn't been a problem for him in his first 2 starts, and who is able to work his way out of jams. The pitcher that was good enough to get selected for the Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. That's the Singer I expect to see tonight. I think we'll get a pitcher's duel tonight between Singer and Charlie Morton.
I hope so. Morton is about 1,000,000 years old, but he's still pitching well. He's still effective, and that's what counts. Yeah, I'm excited for this series. I think, it's something of a litmus test for the Royals. Can you hang around with a team that is, I think it's fair to say, markedly better than you are? I think that this is the first time this year the Royals have had a series like that where the opposing team is
a lot
much better.
Yeah, like Minnesota, they started with Minnesota. Minnesota's got the same record as Atlanta, 9-4, but like Atlanta won 100 games last year. Minnesota did not.
No.
So Atlanta won a World Series 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The Twins have not done that. So it's a really good lineup, even without Orlando Arcia in it, who's been one of their hottest hitters to start the year. Ronald Acuna Jr.'s played like an MVP candidate. Matt Olson's off to a super hot start. Their big left-handed bat at first base. Sean Murphy, the catcher they brought over in a trade from Oakland this offseason, has been really good. So, it's a tough lineup. No, not a lot of easy outs lining up 1 through 9. So let's see how these young pitchers do. And then on Sunday, we'll see how the wily veteran Zach Greinke handles them. This is the funnest stretch of the rotation.
Yeah.
Me. Like, I can't get excited about a Jordan Lyles start. Yeah, pitch bad.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not psyched to watch Jordan Lyles pitch. Just you expect innings and he's going to give up a few runs, but you just want him to keep you competitive.
Yeah. I like Keller. I think
Keller's been good.
Yeah.
Like Keller has, we've talked about probably Bubich more than we've talked about Keller, but Keller's doing some interesting things with a new pitch this season as well. And I think he will certainly bear watching. But as far as like a run through the rotation, like a 3-game series, this to me, Singer, Bubich, and Greinke is the most interesting combination of 3 that you can get.
I like Greinke because even though I'm not like dying to watch nearly 40-year-old Zach Greinke throw, it's going to be, most of the time at least fairly competitive. And he's at home. Much better at Kauffman than away from it as a Royal.
Greinke's an artist in a way that, a lot of pitchers aren't anymore because he's not throwing in the 90s any longer. He needs to shave the corners and he needs to occasionally mix in a 68-mile-an-hour curveball or, occasionally just throw nothing but changeups for an entire inning and see if he can get 3 ground balls. In the way he challenges himself and the fact that he calls his own pitches. Like he's just unique and rare, and you should enjoy Zach Greinke because there's not a lot of him left.
No, very few Zach Greinke's out there, or probably
I think
ever again.
only one Zach Greinke,
Yeah,
and
really.
we're in the last days. Like we're a lot closer to the end than the beginning with him.
You think this is it?
I kind of do.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Great year for him to kind of bring some guys along. The guys in the clubhouse love Zach Greinke.
Mm-hmm.
Bring him along, help bring him along. Be transition year. Go out, with your head held high as a Royal where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think this is the last year. I thought last year might be the last year, to be completely honest with you. We've got to get to one more break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll take a look ahead to the sports weekend. What's on tap for us? What will we be watching, paying attention to? That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. Final few minutes of 580 Sports Talk on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you. Thank you so much for being part of the program today and throughout the week. Want to let you know that there is some potential for dangerous weather out there. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning right now until 6:30 for southern Lyon County. So Emporia area, Olpe area.
Americus, 60-mile-an-hour winds, possibility of hail. That is until 6:30 p.m. this evening. And, of course, you keep it here, 580 WIBW. We will keep you posted throughout the evening and break into coverage of Royals baseball as events warrant, if necessary, to let you know about the threat of severe weather, because there are going to be some severe weather rolling through the better part of the state of Kansas tonight.
That time of year. So be safe.
Is.
Keep the radio with you. Stay listening. And make sure you take any precautions that are recommended as we deal with the weather coming up tonight. Real quick, before we get to what's on tap for the weekend, this just came out within the last 10 to 15 minutes. How about some NBA Player of the Year award finalists who have been named? Your MVP finalists. We'll go through these quickly. Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Who wins this year?
Embiid. It's written in the stars. They decided they want to give it to him, so that's who they're going to give it to.
Who should win the award, Dan?
Honestly, either Jokic or Giannis. I don't think there's a wrong answer between those two, but I think it's those two 1-2 in some order, and Jokic and Embiid third. like a really strong third, but
Yeah.
still third. But it is what it is.
Pretty crazy. 3 international players. That's a big deal for the NBA.
Yeah.
Your 6th Men of the Year finalists: Malcolm Brogdon, Bobby Portis, Emmanuel Quickley. Sure. Give me Malcolm Brogdon there. The Defensive Player of the Year: Evan Mobley from the Cavs, Brooke Lopez of the Bucks, Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr. was involved in a fake scandal earlier this year where someone on Reddit accused the Grizzlies official scorekeeper of padding his defensive stats.
Yeah, I remember.
And immediately after that went public, the betting odds for him shrunk. Like they got bigger, like harder for him to, be the betting favorite. Wild stuff there. I'm trying to think of any players relevant to our listing area that are up for anything, and there really aren't. No KU or K-State players who are in the league who are nominated for anything this year. Christian Brown, not up for Rookie of the Year, tragically.
Yeah, it should have been.
Had a darn good year.
Real quick, we got a final in Sunflower Showdown baseball action today.
Oh, hit us with it.
K-State a winner, 5-4 over KU at Hogan Ballpark this afternoon.
Yeah, that was a really good game. K-State went up early. KU came back. K-State went up again. KU came back, but strong finish for K-State in that one.
So,
fun weekend of baseball. It'll be in Lawrence if you want to go check out Sunflower Baseball this weekend.
2 p.m. first pitch tomorrow, 1 p.m. first pitch on Sunday.
Good stuff. Real quick, what is on tap for the weekend around the sports world? What will you be keeping an eye on?
Well, the NBA playoffs start this weekend. All 4 series. There's quadruple header basketball on Saturday and Sunday. So all 4 of the first round series. Not all of these series are going to be good. In fact, a couple of them I think are going to be, kind of ugly. The Bucks are going to thrash whoever they play in the East. The Celtics are going to do terrible things to the Hawks. I think the 76ers are going to do terrible things to the Nets. I think the Eastern Conference is kind of a bore. The action is in the Western Conference, but you're going to have to stay up late to watch all of these games because they all include teams Western time zones, particularly the Pacific time zone. Grizzlies, Lakers, like those 2 teams don't like each other very much because Dylan Brooks exists and he plays for the Grizzlies, and the Lakers don't like him because nobody likes Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, I sure don't.
So there'll be some animosity in that series. Everybody's picking the Lakers to surprise, make a deep tournament run. I get it. They got LeBron, still great. They have Anthony Davis, who's great when he's upright, which is rare. They also play Austin Reeves 30 minutes a night. I'm sorry, you're not winning anything of consequence if Austin Reeves is playing 30 minutes a night.
You have heard my thoughts on Austin Reeves many times. They are not winning anything with him as a key player.
Kings Warriors could really be a fun series. The Warriors were kind of butt most of the season, and they went 11-30 on the road.
Unthinkable.
The problem is the Kings, much fun as they are, great story. Mike Brown won Coach of the Year already. Their coach, they've got an unbelievable offense. They cannot guard a lick. So Kings could be in trouble in that series. Suns Clippers could be entertaining as well. 2 kind of unlikable teams.
Yeah.
Great players usually means high level basketball. I am naturally neurotic about the Nuggets series, but they shouldn't have any trouble with either the Wolves or the Thunder in a 7-game series.
You wouldn't hope so. I mean, the teams that play in the play-in are at such a disadvantage because they've been playing.
Right. Like the Wolves could take them 6, like theoretically, because the Wolves have no back down in them except for Rudy Gobert when he's in the lineup, and maybe he won't be in the lineup.
Yeah.
I could see the Wolves maybe giving them a little bit of trouble if Towns played really well or something. Like the Thunder, they're too young. Like they win tonight. Because the play-ins are tonight. Thunder Wolves in the West, and then the Bulls Heat in the East. But the Nuggets should win 5 games at best, either whoever they play. That's what they should do.
Real quick, breaking news before I get to my What's on Tap. Buda Baker, safety for the Arizona Cardinals, has requested a trade.
Yes. Apparently now you do that by just taking your team out of your Twitter and Instagram bios.
Yes. Changed his profile picture, too, from him in uniform to him next to a pool somewhere. But that's a good player. Someone's going to get a real good player. I wouldn't want to play for the Cardinals right now either. My What's on Tap. Bulls are on tonight. Maybe the final game of the year. I will maybe enjoy it. I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not at this point. I will enjoy watching my guy Jimmy Butler, though. I'll watch some Cubs baseball this weekend. Watch some Royals baseball this weekend.
The golf's going to be good. RBC Heritage will be good.
Yeah.
Loaded leaderboard. It's an elevated event, so all the stars are there, and they're all in contention.
And I will not be watching any sports on Sunday because it is my first anniversary with my
now.
wife. Yep. It'll be 1 year for my lovely wife and I. So we are going to go get dinner in Kansas City.
Wonderful.
We'll have a nice Italian meal. Spend a lot of time together, and I don't know what else we're planning to do, but we did this thing at the wedding. You were there, where we wrote each other letters for our first 3 anniversaries.
Yes, I remember.
And we put them in a box during the ceremony, so we'll open year 1 coming up on Sunday.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we are very, very excited about that. We've got to get to a break right now, though. Before we head into the weekend, we've got the final word up next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's wrap up what's been a great week of 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word to take us into the weekend, Dan.
Well, first of all, happy anniversary to you and your lovely
Thank
wife. That's very exciting. Mine's coming up in June, so happy first anniversary to Brendan and Abby. My second final word is that I'm fascinated by the Justin Watson re-signing for the Chiefs. The fact that they gave him 2 years, even though it's not a lot of money, really shows that they value what he brings to the table in that wide receiver group. And I think there is a role for him to play. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't part of the team, if they brought him in to just be a camp body. No, I think he's part of it. I think Mahomes likes him. I think his size is a different element in that receiver group. I think it's a good bit of business for the Chiefs to bring him back.
Yeah, first for me. How about all the anniversaries around now? Jake and his wife Lindsay today, myself and my wife Abby on Sunday, and then 2 months for you.
Yeah, we can wait to talk about mine. It's in the future. We can wait.
It'll be here early, soon enough. My final word, though, there are a lot of good players, especially good offensive players out there in the transfer portal right now. Still plenty of work to do if you're KU and K-State going after the likes of Hunter Dickinson or Harrison Ingram or Aaron Estrada or Max Asmus. A lot of work to do to close those deals. But if KU can lock down, and KU and K-State can lock down players like that, future is very, very bright for 23-24 in college hoops here in the Sunflower State. That does it for us today on 580 Sports Talk. We're back on Monday from 3 until 6. We've also got some 580 Sports Talk coming up here, some overtime, I should say, here at the top of the hour. Until Monday, though, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk to you guys then on 580 Sports Talk.